Hello and welcome to yet another video. This is the first episode in which Naruto's childhood happens differently. After an incident, Naruto grows up as a guest of the Hyuga clan, but he is more interested in his clan's legacy and aspires to be Hokage. However, a certain fox always gets in his way. Please like and subscribe to show your support. Let's get the show started. He was alone once more, slogging through the darkness without assistance. He cursed the tears that were still in his eyes, despite his pledge to never cry again due to sorrow or anger. By the time he was 6, Naruto had grown used to people mistreating him. He had cried extensively and was tired of it. His life remained the same without any significant changes caused by it. He was not frequently subjected to abuse by adults, but despite his actions, people always accused him of wrongdoing. It was expected that he would commit the most atrocious acts, for some reason. Despite his efforts to please others, he was constantly met with eyes filled with hatred and fear. He was never treated the way the other kids were. Refrained from relying on anything. Did not show any concern for the welfare of others. Didn't love. He was never given a second chance. Uzumaki Naruto was oblivious to the reason for his absence. He was unaware that the world was unjust. He was irritated by it. He was too feeble to make them pay. Is too feeble to modify. The conditions today were particularly vexing. Despite his tendency to avoid people, Naruto was eventually discovered by a group of boys twice his age when he returned to the orphanage. It had led to a hard hitting. Naruto's defense was impeded by his small stature. He was outnumbered by them, who were older and stronger. His lack of power was a cause for anger. What was the reason behind their violent actions? There was no justification for such behavior. The absence of a reason was undeniable. They never felt the need for one. They were the ones who beat him up because no one would ever rebuke them for it. They had the ability to do what they wanted for him. As long as he wasn't severely hurt, the adults would rather tolerate their actions than punish them for it. In certain situations, the adults had even given the other children a boost of confidence. His birthday was the most dreadful day of his life, just like it was on his own. If Uzumaki Naruto was an orphaned outcast, why would anyone care about his fate? The child's appearance was not desired by anyone. From time to time, Sarutobi Hiruzen was the only one who encountered him. The young Naruto was unable to fully put his trust in him. He had covered himself with bruises, dirt and blood and dragged himself back to the orphanage. He didn't find it there, but that was the only place he could go. The place where he called home was the one, and no other word could match him more. Other children did not understand the meaning of the word. He was not received with kindness or care in that place. It was only a few months before Naruto left for this orphanage. He had a stronger negative reaction to it than to the previous one. He loathed the fact that incidents like today occur frequently. After finally reaching his home, he was relieved to have not had to endure the noise of the streets again and only heard the warden yelling at him, suggesting him because of his unclean conduct. He was tardy due to something. She stated that Naruto should be living like an animal if he was acting like one, before closing the door for him. He should have been able to live outside like the stray dog he looked up to. Naruto muttered, "Ah, good riddance," with a gruff tone. The former orphanages did not treat him well, but it usually resulted in neglect. Until they had a small reason to throw him out. It appeared that the warden of this orphanage had a strong dislike for him. She took pleasure in torturing him as if he had caused her harm. As if it were my own reflection. It's possible that this is why she was the sole volunteer after the last orphanage euthanized him. He was the only one who wanted him. They dubbed him as crazy. Dangerous. Only because he had taken revenge on one of the bullies that had besieged him in that place. The boy managed to hold back the tears and sighed with weariness. He wondered, why is it that they don't stop picking on me? What actions did I take to justify my actions? He reacted with anger, but ignored the strange feeling that always occurred when he felt angry. He whispered to his Hokage, maybe I should just remove them all from the village. According to Jizan, if I were to become a Hokage, it's because they have earned respect and will no longer pick up on it. Naruto was lost in his own thoughts and couldn't distinguish the man who was hurrying through the dark alleys. Little Naruto was not seen by the man, who was preoccupied with the individuals he knew were trailing him. Upon realizing the terror of his pursuers, the man smiled and then crashed into the boy, who had no bag with him. What the? While trying to get up, he looked at the little boy who was now staring at him. Get lost, mongrel, you're about to lose your way. The collision caused significant pain in his body, particularly on his ribs where he had been kicked earlier that day. Naruto was unfazed by the pain he encountered. Yet another individual to scream at him. A different individual who inflicted harm upon him. When did it come to an end? He snapped. The anger he had previously felt was nothing like the intense rage that now consumed him, dispelling all thoughts of himself. His mind was consumed by the suffocating emotion. Naruto had a thought in his mind about the reason behind his whiskers' frequent itching or sudden sense of improvement. His blood-red rage drowned out all those thoughts. No more tidbits of information to share. Is it true that, no, is a valid question? Additional information is available upon request. The man felt a surge of energy in the boy's chakras. The man knew what the boy must be, as he stated, it is not possible for just a child to do that. It caused a momentary trepidation for the man, but Naruto was too difficult to compete with an entire team of fully trained jonins. He was knocked out by the man before his chakra would re-establish. Although the boy's strength may not be enough to stop him, his chakra could make it more likely that he will be found by the man pursuer. Despite his confidence in defeating almost all opponents in a one-on-one battle, he was actually the heart of the enemy's village. Suicide would be the same as combat at present. The mission's failure would be due to combat. An irate Hyuga Hayashi made his way towards the area where the abductors were last seen, in a fit of anger. There are no individuals who would kidnap their daughter and heir and not face consequences. Upon approaching, he utilized his Byakugan again and observed two police officers waiting for him, along with several others who were scattered throughout the area. He asked the oldest of the two girls, "Where is my daughter?" with anger. Hayashi had more to deal with than just his composure. Hyuga-sama, we're sorry to say that we can't apologize, but the kidnapper slipped away after he was caught. The man screamed, but was abruptly cut off by a blast from the nearby area. Before the agent could complete his sentence, Hayashi fled. Incompetent idiots, he growled. The kidnapper's use of explosives in the Hyuga compound would have prevented him from being tracked down by more members of his clan, rather than scouring the rubble for survivors. He could have saved his family if he had been at home. Upon arriving at the site of the latest explosion, Hayashi told himself that he should not feel guilty. Two nearby buildings were ripped apart by the blast that they heard in a narrow alleyway. There was no one present to be found. His Byakugan was nowhere to be found. The Hyuga growled and said, "It's a distraction." It appears that the person being called a head ninja is not just referring to an inexperienced child, Hayashi explained. Those presumptions he had earlier must be true. That was a dangerous village. Naruto's voice couldn't contain his fear of closure. The sensation was reminiscent of someone wielding a heavy and impactful object and hitting it into their skull. The absence of light caused Uzumaki to ache and become confused, and it took a few seconds for his eyes to adapt. What happened to him? He saw something in a dilapidated room that seemed to be part of an abandoned building. The building was in a worse state than the abandoned shed that stood alongside the orphanage. For the better part of 6 years, they had informed him that the shed had been deserted, which is a long time for 10-year-olds like him. However, in a way that was even more terrible, this building Naruto rehabilitated his body and began to search for ways to overcome the mess. The last thing he remembered was coming across an unfamiliar person who had assaulted him. The idea of a kidnapping was nonsensical to him. Although people would physically attack him, kidnapping had never been a common occurrence. If not, he had something on him, he said. It's possible that Naruto didn't intend to harm him, as evidenced by his examination of the situation. A girl of the same age was restrained and gagged by him, resulting in her sound being muted. Neither, nor can you move a muscle. Seeing Naruto's movements, she noticed her eyes wide open. He experienced a period of inactivity before lifting his head. Naruto was unable to see anything except her, as he stared into her eyes. Naruto's eyes were unrecognizable until she saw her. Despite the tears streaming down their corners, Naruto still believed that the pure white eyes were the most stunning he had ever seen in his life. Despite their pure and innocent qualities, they seemed to penetrate his soul. After being nuked from the kidnapper's hit, Naruto attempted to stand up. He was surprised to find that he was not bound. The kidnapper seemed unaware that Naruto could recover so quickly from the blow. The savage guard stood at the entrance, wondering how he would get away. He had been concentrating on apprehending the Hyuga clan's heir, but was grateful for the opportunity to return with a Jinchuriki. It's important for me to leave this place before I can continue. They are more secure than I expected. I was fortunate enough to find this closed temple, but now I need to cross the walls and avoid being seen first. A Kumogakure shinobi was the one who took the kidnapping. The head ninja of Kumo, known as the Shinobi Gashira, was second only to the Raikage. The man was present at the signing of the peace agreement between Kumo and Konoha, where he served as an official diplomat. The man had taken advantage of the night to realize his objective and carry out his intended plan. The leaders of the covert cloud settlement had favored taking down the Byakugan instead of an unstable agreement. Despite being too young to give birth, the girl he had taken into custody was the most bloody among her family members. The primary bloodline, unaffected by the elusive seal of theirs, remains intact. The Kumo shinobi recognized that a decade of patience was worth the effort to acquire one of the most powerful dojutsu in existence. After she reached maturity, they would ensure that she had enough offspring. The Byakugan would be accessible to Kumo over the course of several generations. Due to the loss of their Jinchuriki, Konoha's position would be greatly compromised, making it unwise for them to engage in a war with Kumo. It is more probable that Hai no Kuni would be torn apart by the other nations, given its weakened state. The Jonin murmured at the downfall of a peace-loving old fool like Hokage was unavoidable. He had to leave this place first. The man had rushed towards the wall that encircled Konoha after knocking out the Jinchuriki, but due to tight security, he couldn't escape while carrying both of his captives. Their response time was faster than anticipated. His luck was on his side once more. As he came across the old temple that had been sealed off. Oddly, the Jonin had not been to the temple on the previous day, as he had been looking for ways to escape. He had taken refuge in the deteriorated building across from the bridge that crossed over the small lake. The ruin looked like a traditional temple, and it was situated on the side of the mountain that supported Konoha. The temple was situated on a small plateau that had been cut off at the foot of the mountain. The man from Kumo could see the enormous stone face of the former first Hokage from his location, but not so distant on the left. What's the next step? Naruto contemplated his next move after questioning how he could exit the situation. He realized that his abductor was looking on, so it wouldn't be too complicated for him to escape alone. Is it reasonable to consider leaving this girl, even though I am not familiar with her identity or the reason behind it? He is obviously on the loose from someone, so he may not be an ally of Konoha. If that's the case, I might as well take him on. Wherever he travels, it's always worse than here, right? But that would mean that I would abandon this girl to fate wherever she may end up in. Naruto's eyes were pure, white, but should I take a chance and end up killing someone he or she doesn't know? Naruto noticed something strange about her. His actions were met with hostility from the majority of children in his surroundings. They might harbor animosity towards him due to a shared dislike. He could articulate the feeling, but he was aware of it when interacting with someone who had intense emotions. Almost everyone in his situation was subject to this rule. In spite of that, this girl is a bit of an exception. What makes her feel so innocent? Wouldn't it make me the villain if I were to abandon her? Naruto, what actions would Jizan take if she faced him? She had such an understanding of his situation that she looked up to him with her eyes open. It appeared to be her genuine appearance in his soul. Naruto's fearful gaze caused him to shudder slightly. He was aware that she comprehended his dilemma. She answered his questions with a single tear. Naruto's questions were answered with a single tear. He dragged the girl to a different room, careful not to make any noise that could alert their distracted kidnapper. Naruto was fortunate that she was not exposed, otherwise she would have easily caught the kidnapper's eye. It's conceivable that he couldn't hold the girl accountable for her panic. It's possible that she would end up being a contented child. If someone were to kidnap her like this, she would have to be part of a wealthy family. Following his move to the other room, he began seeking ways to block access. Either to evade the situation. Despite being unaware of the kidnapper's knots, Naruto was unable to tie the girl up. The debris in this room was of no use. The ropes were not sharp enough to need to be cut. "Shut up," he whispered to the girl's head. "Stay put," she said. "I'll take a closer look at my surroundings." The girl with pale eyes nodded and widened her gaze even more. Naruto could perceive that she did not appreciate the fact that he left her there. Nonetheless, he was not capable of pulling her along. Naruto was fortunate enough to hear the wind blowing through the old wooden building, which made noise that obscured his own mistakes. Naruto's attempts to avoid attention were unsuccessful due to his tendency to move silently for the majority of his life, resulting in occasional creaking noises. Regrettably, the structure was quite small, with only a few tiny rooms and one large room at the rear. Naruto's experience of entering a larger room was not initially strange due to the sensation he felt. He looked around and was confused by what he saw. Naruto whispered, "Masks?" A small platform was situated on the back of the room's wall, and Naruto observed the most peculiar masks he had ever seen on it below its curtains that were falling. "The masks make me feel bizarre. What caused them to be left in the abandoned dungeon?" Naruto was drawn to a specific mask that caught his eye. The masks were akin to the faces of demons, with some being broken but others remaining intact. Demon faces were commonly depicted as angry, repugnant, or afflicted with excruciating pain. A horned demon with an impressive smile was the face that Naruto chose for his mask. A cheeky smile, not a happy one. As if it was belittling everyone within its sight. Even though he was unaware of the reason, Naruto managed to grab the mask from its standard on the wall. The mask was not constructed from metal or wood. The feeling was that it was so light. What was the meaning behind Naruto's question of bone? He had observed a dog with those things, and it appeared to be very similar. Naruto spotted an unusual drawing on the mask's underside, asking what was it. The seal had a similar appearance to the ones he had witnessed in the old man's office. The peculiar shape of the drawing was the spiral in its center. The symbol that Naruto could see on the wall's top, where the old mothy curtains were hung, was identical. What's the significance of that spiral-shaped emblem? The head ninja had been aware of the situation. The wooden structure appeared unstable, but the stairway was the sole way to reach the peak of the mountain. The risk involved was worth it? The Konoha shinobi's search for direction would be scattered, making it the most probable scenario for them to escape across the mountains. It would be a mistake to go back through the village. She is my top priority, so I must embrace her. He whispered something to himself. Without being slowed down too much, he was confident in his ability to carry 2 children due to his impressive physical appearance. The Jinchuriki brat was too small to fit in the bag he had given to the girl earlier. He had the ability to remove the brat from the mountain if he faced any difficulties. He was aware that the creatures contained within a Jinchuriki would flee after their death. If trouble arises, a rampaging demon would be the perfect distraction. What the? The man cursed upon returning to the abandoned building, leaving his wounds behind. The kids were absent. He struck the wall in front of him. He's a quick healer, but the demon in him is just so unbearable that I should have taken it upon myself to unteach the child. Naruto was secretly returning to the room where he had abandoned the girl and left her. He heard shouting then. The child mumbled, he must have found out, with a tearful response. Naruto had not found anything that could be used to unteach the girl, except for a few pieces of the wooden structure. He wanted to go back to her and see if he could find another way out of their situation, but it was already too late. Nevertheless, it is possible that if the man were to enter the building, could Naruto retrieve the girl and drag her through the unguarded front door? However, Naruto's time was up too short. The man had already found the girl and seemed to be quite stressed. It's clear that it is. Naruto heard the man discussing his decision to leave her behind while he searched for a solution. Faint, the man remarked. He could have easily slipped off his feet at this point. Unforeseen foes. The same is true for all of them. It's ghastly to see that he found her. It would be possible for me to hide and release them, Naruto said with a smirk. Despite being aware of the bad news about the man, Naruto never understood why he could do it, but feared any form of mistreatment. That's how he got away from the worst people. There is no question that this man had no good intentions. This man's emotions were more distressing than usual. The girl or Naruto's intention was not known, whether it was directed towards him or the other person. Naruto was aware that he could not leave the girl behind. The combination of fear and hope, as well as his white eyes, haunted him. She had no doubts about him, he was the only thing she could count on. Naruto's eyes were closed to the mask. Might I have the ability to frighten him? And perhaps strike on with a powerful blow. If I hit him between the legs, I could have enough time to grab the girl and escape. While examining the debris, Naruto discovered an enormous piece of wood that he could use as a club. Naruto was anxious and waited until the adult was turned away from him. The man was occupied with the girl's ropes for some reason. The man's words were, "Don't be stupid, brat," as soon as he heard someone enter the room. Naruto's head trembled as the man stood up and approached him. What the? The head ninja was informed about the child's behavior. He was convinced of that. He had no sight of anything to witness. Naruto, what's up with this prank? I hate these demonic freaks. His heart was pounding, for a moment he felt hopeless. Despite his efforts, the man was unable to see him. Naruto's energy was drained by the mask, which felt like a heavy weight all at once. Naruto jumped up and proceeded to impale the man's homemade wooden gun, stabbing him in the stomach. Sarutobi Hiruzen's age became a factor in his slowing down. He had been informed by an Umbu shinobi in the middle of the night about the Hyuga compound attack and the ongoing pursuit. Hiruzen was approached by a boar-masked Umbu at Konoha's outer wall, and the animal bellowed, "Hokage-sama." Hiruzen commanded the speaker to report. The walls have not been breached, and there are no indications of anyone getting inside, the Umbu stated. The heir of the clan has been kidnapped by someone who attacked the Hyuga estate during the night. The explosion has caused Hyuga Hayashi to chase after him, but the majority of them are now occupied with danger. Do we have knowledge of the person responsible for this? No, Hokage-sama. Another buggy stumbled downstream. The shinobi, with his gray hair, appeared to be running at full speed. Hokage-sama. It was reported that the Uzumaki shrine seal had been hacked. Hiruzen's gaze flicked away for a brief moment. It's not too far from where the kidnapper was last seen. Those who are in search should keep going back to the temple, as per his command. Exit the room. The head ninja of Kumogakure was furious. He heard someone moving, but could not discern a soul. He was stabbed by someone. He had lost his ability to see. A man of his stature was not fond of being tricked by a small child. He was too proud of it, no doubt about it. Did the brat experience supernatural powers from a demon that predated his death? Let's not waste time by fiddling around. Whether you're visible or not, you will die. Raitun, Mahi no Heido. Naruto was unable to comprehend the man's actions, but there was an unexpected shock that hit him. His hair was completely absent, and his mouth appeared to dry like never before, after a few days of not drinking. Naruto's fall backwards caused the demonic mask to break into multiple pieces, with his limbs moving uncontrollably. There was no indication of pain. He experienced only a burning sensation, as if something inside his stomach had caught fire, and the flames then spread throughout his body. Naruto attempted to recover by grabbing two of the most significant fragments from the broken mask, but his body was unsuccessful. The last thing Naruto saw before he lost consciousness was the kidnapper approaching him and then seeing him fall to the ground after someone or something burst into the room. All went missing in the darkness. Hyuga Hayashi quickly made his way to the Hokage's office. The Hokage had contacted him, as reported by a dog-masking Umbu with silver hair, who stated that it was of the utmost urgency. Despite everything, he had no real aspiration to do so. In fact, he was quite angry right then and there. He aimed to examine the harm inflicted on his household, as well as his daughter's welfare. Despite the fact that Umbu, wearing a dog-masked mask, had assured him of her well-being, he still desired to see her with his own eyes. He was not allowed to disobey direct orders from his Hokage, whether or not they were the clan leader. He bowed slightly and declared, "Hokage-sama." The elder Sarutobi was not given the proper respect he deserved, which was only minimal. Nodding, Hiruzen responded to the man's agitation by saying, "Hayashi. Kakashi has already informed you, but both children are currently in the hospital and will undergo a first aid check before being admitted for injuries. Although they were both slightly surprised by what happened today, I think they will both be alright." Hayashi scowled at the question, "Are you both right?" However, he promptly relinquished that piece of information. What became of Hinata? Hiruzen reacted with an emotion as the ambassador from Kumo seemed to have more intention towards taking hold of a Jinchuriki and her daughter than the peace treaty we had just signed. Thanks to his efforts, he managed to activate a seal while hiding in. I was just in time, or so it seemed, when I found the three. Hinata is doing well, can you please give me your opinion? From what I could gather, the reason for this was Naruto's ability to defuse the kidnapping process. In any case, the man was on his way to Kumogakure when I first saw him. "What is the name of Uzumaki Naruto?" was asked by Hayashi. "Ow, no doubt about that kid." It was only at this point that he comprehended the Hokage's words. A lot of the adrenaline was gushing through Hayashi's veins, leaving him feeling somewhat sidetracked. The act of staying calm during combat was a valuable skill, but it became an assault on one's family and clan. Hayashi, a motionless Hiruzen, looked over at his desk. "I am aware of the extent of your clan's power, but I request that you refrain from taking any action after this incident." Whether the ambassador was acting alone or on behalf of Kumogakure is still unknown. Despite the situation, Hiruzen's hand held up as he said that if war did occur, "I would rather not go to war," Hayashi quipped. "The incident is nauseating, but I am not willing to allow it to escalate into a more severe issue. I am of the opinion that this severe insult does not excuse the loss of countless lives." Hayashi affirmed that the Hyuga are not interested in war, but they will defend themselves against aggression. "I will be visiting my daughter first, but if you allow me to do so, I will make the final move. Alright, but don't postpone too much. A number of groups in the village are already arranging for an immediate revenge to Kyomogakure. It's not feasible for me to postpone for too long. Hayashi, who had just met the village's leader, was penniless and veered away as he made his way through the hospital to the room that the receptionist had directed him to. Upon entering the room, he heard his daughter squeaking, "Oh." Hayashi gave a grimace while saying, "Hinata." Despite the child's tears being understandable, it was not an act of defiance. It was a challenging ordeal for her. "Hinata, are you all right?" The girl nodded and screamed tears of sorrow as her father expressed his disapproval of her lack of composure. She had some success, but new tears came out just as quickly. "We were saved by Hokage-sama." Nevertheless, Hayashi said, "Naruto-kun is doing all right," a woman behind said. He was not greatly surprised, however, as his wife appeared to know everything at times. Hayashi was fully aware that Hyuga Hitomi would have the most superior eyesight if he were to be considered the top Juken practitioner of the clan. Haiko, absolutely no one can say for sure, but Hitomi did. "Hayashi," she said with a smile. "Despite the kidnapper's cruel tactics, Hinata remains alive." "Ah, Oka-san, am I right?" Hinata admired her mother. Can I see him?" "Does he seem to be awake?" she whispered. "He is still asleep," she said softly. Hinata's parents were unable to see her happiness as she had a downcast appearance. If Naruto-kun had not halted the kidnapper, it would have been impossible for him to escape and return to Kyomogakure before Hokage-sama could intervene. "Are we able to help him?" Hinata asked. Hayashi looked at his wife, who was busy fixing a strange split of her daughter's dark blue hair. The fact that their eldest daughter had the same hair color as hers made his wife feel peculiar. "We will comply with it." "And should," Hitomi told her daughter as she looked up at her husband's frown. According to Hinata's statement, Naruto-kun might have opted not to participate in it. "He did not run away to abandon our daughter, even though he had the opportunity. Although his tenketsu are injured, there is no noticeable injury to report. It's possible to provide him with a place to rest peacefully while we acknowledge his contribution to the events of the day. Is it possible for Nasty to remain with us?" Hinata asked, hoping for his company. Hayashi nodded in agreement. "It would be suitable for presently. I will communicate this to the doctor and request Hokage-sama's formal authorization." During the final words, he stressed to his wife that the case of Uzumaki Naruto was one to remember. It's not necessary that he had to tell her. It is a fact that Hitomi frequently focused on affairs outside the clan. She had a comprehensive knowledge of Uzumaki Naruto and was familiar with his identity. "Excellent. I plan to have my cousin Haruki attend to the needs of Naruto's apprentice. If I recall correctly, the cottage next to his has recently become empty, so I suppose it would be a fitting place for Naruto to reside. It is possible that the distance from the main building would be more convenient for the child. Many members of our family would undoubtedly favor it. Additionally, allowing him to stay in the property would give the impression that we were taking care of him." Her daughter was the object of her gaze as she smiled. "Is it appropriate to visit Naruto after he wakes up?" Despite his belief that she displayed emotional fragility, she was still his daughter and he loved her with all his heart. Despite the demands of his duties to his family, he could still find a humane side by hiding behind his cold Hyuga appearance. History of Hokage-sama. With a tired voice, the Hokage answered. Meeting the council's elders was a frustrating half-hour of work. "What's the latest on the kidnapper? Did Kyomogakure give a reply, and did the Hokage side?" "Ibiki has acted swiftly and efficiently. The ambassador was sent here with the aim of taking a suitable female Hyuga to allow Kyomo to access the Byakugan, as per interrogation. Hiruzen observed that Hayashi's eyes widened as he contemplated the meaning of what was said. The idea of his daughter being targeted for her own children is not appealing to fathers. Despite not being angry, Hiruzen's age made it difficult for him to make decisions based on his emotions. Nevertheless, he was not in charge of the Hyuga clan. If the Hyuga were to seek vengeance, their significant power within the village could result in war. Hayashi's decision is the determining factor in everything. Hiruzen's tired voice conveyed his relief that the situation was not a positive one. Kumo is aware of their negative stance now that the peace agreement has been officially signed, and we have disseminated it extensively across borders. It is not possible for them to make demands without disclosing that they broke the treaty first. Additionally, we are aware that Kumo instructed their representative to put this kidnapping on hold, and we have evidence of this. Kumo's diplomatic standing with other countries will be compromised if it attempts something like this again. If this were to be made public, they would lose trust once more. Kumogakure would prefer an uneasy peace rather than an international scandal that could lead to a war between them and hidden villages. Hayashi nodded in agreement. Despite the fact that many countries did not honor their alliances and treaties, they agreed that individuals who violated them in the same year should be considered honorable and susceptible to attacks by other nations. Despite its impressive military might, Kumogakure, despite being the world's most powerful nation, would not be able to resist a joint invasion from other nations. The Hyuga will not officially hold Kumo responsible for his daughter's abduction and the damage he caused at our estate, according to Hokage-sama. It was a relief that Hinata made it home safely, and there were no significant injuries. Prior to making his request, Hayashi briefly took it in stride, aware of the subject's fragility for Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was rumored to have feelings for the boy. Despite the attachment, the village's Jinchuriki was considered to be beyond the control of a single clan. The Sarutobi's adoption would have taken place on the day he was orphaned, otherwise. The potential power of a Jinchuriki was desired by every clan. As a result, it would be against the law for another family to have access to such goods. In case the Hyuga and Hokage voices aligned, even if it was solely for repaying a debt, Hayashi was clever enough to ensure that his clan would reap benefits. Hokage Dano, while not at fault, I want to acknowledge the debt that our clan owes. Sarutobi inquired about his debt. In the absence of Uzumaki Naruto, my daughter and heir would be on their way to Kumo. I desire to show him appreciation, at least by taking care of him temporarily. Hiruzen's eyes were wide open as he dropped back into his chair after being surprised by the request. He remained silent for a few seconds, contemplating the possibilities. Hayashi, I can assure you that this child is not meant to be a part of any clan. If he were here, I wouldn't feel the need to seek revenge. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed and closed his eyes. He stood up and ensured the door was closed to prevent anyone from hearing, then proceeded. Is it better for Hyuga to take Naruto-kun with them or you to go to war? Hayashi, you must know that this isn't just about local politics. It's not possible to consider this as a mere wager. A global conflict could occur if this scenario progresses to the south. I am fully cognizant, but my request remains the same. Don't mislead me, I am against the idea of the boy becoming a part of my family. He would not be invited as my clan's guest of honor. Moreover, we have already brought him in and provided him with the necessary medical treatment for his rehabilitation. Despite being released from the hospital, it was evident that his tenketsu were severely damaged as a result of the assaults he suffered. We could leave him out of the hospital without any medical care, with a sense of good conscience. Is it your understanding that his tenketsu sustained harm? My suspicion is that a child of his age cannot produce enough chakra to survive any jonin, joint partner, cast during jutsu. Despite this, the child managed to survive an assault by one of Kumogakure's most powerful shinobi. Based on the seal that the boy holds, I believe it played a role in Naruto's survival and the reason he sustained significant harm. According to Hiruzen, it is possible that the Kyuubi displaced some of its chakra into Naruto's chakra system. He gazed at the Hyuga's face, and the discomfort was evident. The seal, which was made by Minato, is strong enough to hold the Kyuubi for a minimum of 10 years. Naruto is completely safe. Hayashi reacted by inhaling as he contemplated the meaning behind what was said. Sarutobi expressed with a sorrowful tone, "Are you talking about only 10 years? The child's strength is a crucial factor in this, and it depends on their ability to perform well. His strength is both physical and mental. Naruto has been facing significant challenges due to the mistreatment of the boy by most people in Konoha, despite having implemented protective laws against him. Even though they don't openly engage in such behavior with him, their fear of me is too strong. It's a fact that you and I share my awareness of various forms of pain. It is my belief that Naruto's feelings of anger and hate facilitate the Kyuubi ability to channel their energy towards the boy through its chakras. If the process persists for an extended period, it may disrupt Naruto's mental stability and give the Kyuubi an opportunity to break the seal." As the Hokage moved from sadness to anger, he began his pace in his own office. The kidnapper said, "He mistakenly ran into Naruto. On the night of this incident, I called the orphanage and they said Naruto didn't come back that night. You believe they were dishonest, right? Do you have any doubts about their actions? Without thorough investigation, I cannot make definitive statements. While Naruto's role as a Jinchuriki is already drawing in unwanted attention, I prefer not to draw too much attention to him. I had to send Naruto home on a few occasions because I believed the orphanage was not treating him well. My family was unable to bring him into the house. If I become too attached to the boy, it could result in my enemies using him as a weapon to reach out to me. The other clans disapproved of my adoption, as the council's previous vote had ruled that the Jinchuriki should not be assigned to any particular clan. I was aware of it, but my perception of the boy has undergone a significant shift since that day. You'll understand that you want to hear my side of the story, right?" "Certainly." The hospital did not seem to be concerned, but our doctor speculated that the injuries were more advanced, Hayashi explained. "Months, or even days. His recovery is happening at a fast pace, making it hard to be certain. The boy was injured before the events of today, without a doubt. I believe that I will invite Ibiki to the orphanage for a visit." The words that were spoken were dark and profane, as stated by Hiruzen. Uzumaki Naruto is credited with saving my daughter and the heir of my clan from a worse fate than death by protecting them through his sacrifices, as stated in the Hyuga. That's why I asked to keep him here for a longer period of time. My family is owed at least that by him. Although there will be some resistance, I am confident that there are many individuals who owe me a debt of thanks. It is imperative that you assist the council in passing this, Hokage-sama. I was surprised by what they had proposed, he said softly. In my opinion, I am interested in what is best for Naruto-kun, without taking into account political factors. I believe your clan could at least acknowledge the difference between Naruto and his burden. I am aware of it. My wife was resolute in this matter, as she had intimate knowledge of the former Uzumaki who resided in Konoha. With a keen eye, Hayashi observed, based on his hair, appearance, conduct, name, and the fact that Kushina was pregnant at the time, it is clear who the father is, and pointed out, Naruto's lineage is shrouded in mystery, yet she belongs to the S-class. The disclosure of this secret is a death sentence, regardless of the individual's position. Even the council is unaware, and I would like to see it remain that way. It is my hope that those who have had the opportunity to know Kushina would also recognize the reasons for keeping it a secret. Hiruzen's actions were interrupted for a brief period of time. Naruto has encountered a number of previous accidents. I'm not interested in drawing attention to him, especially from overseas. This would make IWA a potential target for military action. If the truth is known, I am skeptical that the people of Konoha will treat him with a different attitude. My worry is that the monster is the only thing on everyone's mind, not the boy. Do you have any plans to communicate with Naruto? Do you anticipate that he will comprehend the information? I would rather not burden him with the issues of his family lineage and his prisoner. He has little faith in anyone and always expects the worst from others, as you can see. I made an effort to communicate with him occasionally, similar to how Jiraiya accidentally encountered him a few times. Nevertheless, we have little faith in him whatsoever. I cannot fault him, Hayashi sighed. Hiruzen sighed. Agreed, I will endorse your proposal. Nevertheless, I will cover the expenses of his stay. If the Hyuga clan permits Uzumaki Naruto to reside on their estate, funding him through my office would give the impression that he is not under your clan's control. Nevertheless, would you also be willing to educate him? I desire that he learns to become a fool, just like his parents. Considering both his personality and Jinchuriki, it would be beneficial for him to learn as much as possible before entering the academy. With a clear gaze, Hiruzen intoned that he doubts the civilian population's comprehension of him. The shinobi's burden is too great for even the most knowledgeable individuals to comprehend. According to me, Naruto will receive training and preparation for his initiation into the academy. He will be our honored guest and will stay in a small cottage near the main building on the compound. Hiruzen thanked Hayashi for his help and the Hyuga nodded off as they left the office. Hiruzen was alone in his chair, slouching back and forth. He retrieved a bottle of his favorite sake from the concealed compartment in his desk. With just a few drops of the marked man, his tensions were relieved. Even with an expensive sake bottle, there was no need for a lot of sips on this day. He was weighed down and extremely drained. It was as if he had been awake for days. A sensation that he had a deep understanding of, unfortunately. The presence of hostile environments often leads to paranoia, which is not the optimal solution for a good night's sleep. For some strange reason, Uzumaki Naruto ended up in a very comfortable bed. The most relaxed one he had ever encountered. The bed was filled with strange objects, much like the one that took place during his hospitalization last year. Naruto was left wondering, how did I get here, and this isn't the hospital I went to? Is this jail? The warden stated that if I didn't behave appropriately, they would have me locked up. Naruto retrieved the white attire that was left on a dresser beside the bed. The fact that they were not his own meant that he had no access to his personal clothing. Rather than being imprisoned for nudity, he would prefer to steal. Naruto had to answer the question, how did I get here? I was in that old place and this big jerk just happened and then appeared to be there. It was hard to estimate his age, but the man's tired expression made it appear as though he was in his 30s. Good morning, Naruto-san, said the man. Naruto's behavior was peculiarly formal and polite, unlike the rest of his acquaintances. Jizan and the eccentric toad man were kind to him. Due to their age and strange appearance, Naruto believed they were distinct from typical adults. The man's hair was a shade of brown, not white or silver. It's improbable that he could be as old as that. However, he didn't feel any sense of entitlement. Given his newfound friendliness, should Naruto have allowed him to run or try to be more approachable? His white eyes frightened him, but that wasn't the case. Oh, not a single one. He yelled out, hello, before moving on. You've gotten out of bed, how are you doing? The man replied with a calm and respectful expression. Naruto's discomfort was amplified by the absence of shouting and scolding, which was more severe than what he usually received. What's up with you? Good, in my opinion. What's the name of this place? Where is my location? Is it a strange hospital? Am I being detained? No offense. The man exclaimed, hearing the sound of Naruto-san. Hyuga Haruki, my name is Hyuga and you are currently at the Hyuga estate. You were injured when we found you. Recently, you were assaulted and discovered to have suffered some broken ribs and bruises. The reason why I am here is that someone asked me to check on you. All of your questions were answered by the tall man with a small smile. Despite being on guard, Naruto flew away when asked, "What the hell is a Hyuga?" as if he was expecting the older man to attack him at any moment. The old man's aloofness caused the situation to sound fishy. With the exception of the Hokage and the Toad Man, he had never been treated with such warmth without any ulterior motives. Naruto's initial expectation was that the Hokage and Toad Man would have a hidden agenda. When I am prepared, Hayashi-sama will elucidate that to you. Naruto was escorted to the bed by the man, who then allowed him to rest. He asked for a moment of stillness, and then he looked straight at Naruto with his white eyes. Naruto was frightened when the veins around his eyes suddenly appeared to bulge out. Despite his efforts to escape as fast as possible, Naruto was advised by those unsettling eyes to hold on. Whatever the cause of Naruto's confusion with his pupilless eyes, he was still walking alongside Haruki. With the exception of the hospital, Naruto had never been in a clean facility before. This one was more opulent than anything he had ever laid eyes on. Haruki had mentioned a speaking hashi, which was actually chopsticks. His love for ramen had also provided him with some valuable lessons. He had heard stories about the talking chopsticks at the orphanages, even though they were not meant for him. Although Naruto thought it would be foolish, he believed that wealthy individuals like him could also own magical shinobi items, which suggests that speaking hashi was not significant to them. Haruki then turned left and opened the door to a larger hall. Upon entering, Naruto was approached by a man with brown eyes. Naruto was still unable to understand his own body language when he asked, "Hello?" The person in question was unassuming and did not possess a chopstick. Naruto's enjoyment of it was somewhat disappointing. The confusion was not a surprise to the man with glasses, but he appeared to be expecting it. "Hyuga Hayashi, the leader of the Hyuga clan, is my name. Would you like to share a meal with me?" Naruto's nod was heard, and his stomach subsequently gave in, so clearly and loudly that Naruto blushed and quickly apologized. Naruto's perceptive gaze was immediately dismissed, as if Hayashi would be quick to attempt hitting him. His annoyance was swallowed up by Hayashi. How was that child brought up? Haruki left the room and returned with a food platter. Subsequently, walked away and exited the room. Initially, Naruto was disappointed by the absence of talking chopsticks, but once he saw all the food, a sense of relief was present. He had only experienced delicious food once in his life, specifically when he was taken to a restaurant owned by the elderly man. He was prohibited from entering these places, just like he was from most shops in Konoha. Naruto exclaimed, "This must be the greatest orphanage in existence." She spoke in a soft voice, "This is not an orphanage, Naruto-kun." With her long dark blue hair, the woman entered the room and sat next to Hayashi. Hyuga Hitomi was the woman's name, and she expressed her gratitude by saying, "Thank you for protecting our child." In Hayashi's response, "Daughter, did you come to our rescue 4 days ago? How many days have you lost?" Naruto pondered, then shrugged and continued to eat. 2 bites later, he understood what was said. "Who's stopping that wicked guy?" pondering Hitomi in somewhat of confusion. Naruto's head tilted slightly, as if he was contemplating whether or not to tell them the truth. He said, "Yeah, I felt that bad. I have no idea how to label it, it's not recognizable by sight or smell, but I certainly believed him. If he can sense malice, the Kyuubi's impact could be more significant than I had foreseen," said Hayashi. In addition to his responsibilities for the repairs to the compound, he had also made time to research various records on Jinchuriki and assess their accuracy. The Shodai Hokage's spouse, Mito, had a unique sense of smell. "Our daughter, who is the next in line for our clan, was rescued by you. We would be grateful for your understanding and will welcome you to our estate." Naruto's brain appeared to have exploded. "Do you think I should go back to the orphanage? Is this a joke?" he inquired cautiously, aware that his hopes would be crushed. Naruto-kun, it's not a joke, Hitomi replied softly. The small cottage located next to Haruki-san is also available for your stay if you prefer to reside there. Naruto's expression was deaf in response to the question, if I want. I'm not making a joke, is it? You don't. Oh? Yes, absolutely. He quickly stood up and bowed down, saying, I apologize, thank you. His furious blush was camouflaged by showing gratitude and concealing the angry expression on his face. Naruto shifted from an orphanage to a small cottage situated near the main building on the Hyuga compound. Even after a few days, Naruto still couldn't understand why they allowed him to stay there, but when Jizan visited just then, he seemed content. During the visit, Naruto was reminded by the Hokage that this wasn't a joke, dream, or mere hallucination. The white-eyed individuals did not seem to be fond of jokes. Their demeanor was unusually serious, reserved, and quiet. There was a slight difference in Haruki's behavior. He occasionally smiled, but for the most part, he was. The older man's knowledge was frightening, but so was his confidence. The change in his eyes did not cause him any fear, but it was still far less dramatic. Naruto and Haruki started spending a lot of time together, with the latter taking charge of his education in due course. The regular Hyuga was not the only one, except for Lady Hitomi and her daughter, Hinata. Naruto was unable to grasp the latter. Not in any way. The girl was of the same age as him, but she did not run after him like most of his other children. Ignored his name. Did not make an effort to strike him. She refrained from doing that. She actually refrained from doing anything at all. Hinata's blushing and inability to speak were indications of her tendency towards mistreatment from others like him, as she didn't respond with the same intensity. He believed that she had said something similar to, "Thank you," when they first met after Naruto woke up in this peculiar clandestine place. Naruto was unable to effectively manage her behavior around her peers. Haruki advised him to monitor his conduct as she was a daughter of the gods, which Naruto had to deal with. The little boy was initially confused by the use of "san" and, but eventually managed to understand what he meant. Despite being introduced to Naruto, Hinata's eyes had a distinct appearance that was unlike any other. The white eyes of Hyuga were characterized by their cold and calculated nature, while Hinata's appearance was distinct. Besides that, Naruto found it peculiar to encounter someone who was invisible to his other senses. Naruto experienced a peculiar feeling of being naked and blind. Naruto was not proficient in conversing with her, as no one else of his age had been able to do so. Despite being placed at the orphanages, he was frequently separated from others and moved around. However, Naruto was unable to grasp many other details. What caused the dissimilar behavior of the white-eyed Hyuga? Despite the distance, one group was modest and quite cordial. The other group hardly noticed him. He was so low that they were unable to see him. Naruto inquired of Haruki-san about the reason behind Hyuga's habit of covering their heads during one of his lessons. "I'm not sure what to say, The main house and the branch house in Naruto are not alike. The main house is where the family of the clan leader resides, while the families of branch house serve it. Haruki-san, did you belong to the branch family?" Naruto inquired after examining the man's head protector. "I am responsible for taking care of you, as you are the cherished visitor to our clan. As I retired as a shinobi, you were the first to take on this task. It's more captivating than anything I've ever done," Haruki stated with a smile. Naruto's eyes were wide open as he asked, "Are you a shinobi? What's the story behind that?" Naruto inquired. He resided in his small cottage, residing next to his caretaker, and worked with the Hyuga clan for 3 years. Haruki imparted his life lessons on etiquette, cooking, gardening, and other essential areas of life. Hisashi, Hayashi's brother, occasionally assisted Naruto in training for combat by teaching him the techniques of sword fighting. Although Naruto had the ability to teach the theory and stances, Haruki was unable to exercise his physical strength for reasons unknown to him. Despite his initial success in fighting Naruto, he eventually became too weak to engage in strenuous activities. Despite being officially invited to join the clan, Naruto was content to assist with household chores during his spare time. Naruto had a great fondness for gardening, in particular. It also allowed him to socialize and interact with other members of his branch family. At least, it can be said that Uzumaki Naruto did not experience boredom during his time growing up. Konoha's lack of interest could have resulted in him pulling several pranks. Naruto's behavior was not always considered to be good. Playing practical jokes on people who appeared to see everything was a bit tough. Despite his ability to deceive other children, Naruto chose not to interact with those of his own age, as he had always kept in mind the orphanages. His experience revealed that individuals of his age were the most merciless to him. Hinata's failure to notify him on time was accompanied by embarrassment, which he found amusing. Haruki consistently taunted him for mocking a key member of his family. Hitomi remained unperturbed. Despite criticism, the wife of the clan leader persisted in her husband's deviant actions. He was not highly regarded by the clan's senior members. They and their group steered clear of him at all times, or even ignored him if they were unable to steer clear. Despite everything, these 3 years were the most remarkable in his life. He didn't realize that his stomach weight had gone down as he became happier. Nevertheless, this happiness was not meant to last. The day he was required to go to the academy approached. Naruto was not excited about his debut day at the academy. However, for the Hyuga, it appeared to be a celebration. Hayashi and Hitomi arranged a party for him in honor of their daughter Hinata, who would arrive at the academy on the same day as him. Naruto's reaction to the notion of sharing the dining room was one of disappointment, as he shrugged off the idea. Naruto's understanding of the girl was so profound that he never fully understood her. She avoided him like everyone else who despised them, and her cheeks were a deep shade of red, which made her appear extremely angry towards him. She refrained from speaking and avoided facial expressions when engaging in conversation, particularly when he glanced at her. He might be able to ascertain if she had the same level of animosity towards him as he had previously shown. In his defense, young Naruto had only encountered disapproval from others in his life. What was his expectation? Before Naruto even entered the dinner room, he smelled something familiar. I sensed a scent. Naruto was puzzled by Haruki's inability to comprehend the meaning of "what is this sense?" Nevertheless, it bemoaned him. Typically, he only felt emotions close to those who wanted to hurt him, prompting him to look around. It is not present in either the kitchen or living room. While walking towards the guest house, Naruto was curious about the possibility of finding a room and heard voices. "It's going to work, just put the powder on it," whispered a mean voice. "If you assert that it will work, then who am I to question your judgment?" retorted another sarcastic comment. "Remember to hold your ground, even if you're not in the right place at all. The cinnamon rolls are still powdered, so no one will be able to tell. They'll be informed the next day." The first voice chuckled. "You may consider offering a gift to that fox brat as well. It's possible that we could have taken him too, or maybe not. The guy has a similar unpleasantness to the older gentleman's funny nose." Naruto opened his eyes wide open upon realizing the truth. He quickly regained his composure before a member of the branch who was expected to serve dinner by the appearance of his attire, and he left the guest room. Naruto asked, "Where's the bathroom?" without any commotion, but the man kept his cool with a cold, pointed gaze. It turns out that their eyes and ear quality are not very good, which is why Naruto smiles slightly when discussing how he used his much better hearing. "I'll have to go out for dinner, and I need to do it quickly. The powder can't be good if it is mixed with other ingredients. It's probable that the poison is toxic. Once more. Naruto had finished organizing a solution to the disaster as he closed the doors of the dining room behind him. Despite its speed and dirty nature, Naruto was convinced that it would be successful. "Welcome aboard, Naruto." "You're behind schedule," Hayashi retorted. If Hayashi cooperated, it would be successful. Naruto's grinning and rubbing head, which Haruki couldn't resist, was followed by his apology to Hayashi-sama, who lost focus while on his way. Hisashi's expression of Kakashi was heard while he massaged his forehead, which made Naruto realize that it was not only the clan leader, but also his wife, children, and other relatives who attended the private celebration. "It's pointless today, Naruto," Hitomi whispered softly. "You're in the right place when you should be served with the appendages." Naruto assumed his position next to Neji and in front of Hanabi. As the branch member passed him, they laid out the cinnamon rolls that were favored by Hitomi and Hinata. Naruto felt it was the right moment to ask, "What's on there, cinnamon rolls?" with a pure voice. The branch member fainted for 10 seconds before re-establishing his posture, but Hayashi observed. Without even trying to puzzle him, the man asked why Naruto had posed such an odd question. The man's response was in jest as he realized Hayashi wasn't entirely sure what this meant. He was familiar with the clan leader, which made him realize that he wasn't someone who would easily let go when faced with pressure. Naruto chose to remain unimpeachable and only spoke the truth instead. "As I made my way to the room, I heard a strange sound being played on the cinnamon rolls. The fact that they claimed it wouldn't be noticed because of the powder on their clothes made me wonder what might have happened. What is the reason for it being so important?" "Enthralling." The member of the branch shrugged and retreated to find a way out, but Hisashi had already formed an alliance with him. "Katashi, what does this mean?" I know Hisashi-sama, nothing." Let your stuttering be the last thing you hear and reply with, "I'm sorry." "What did you include on those rolls?" "Oh, nothing, that's it," Katashi declared before attempting to escape. It was a fruitless endeavor. Hyuga Katashi, the branch family's top Juken mastermind, was paralyzed after walking only 2 steps while sitting next to him. Regrettably, that was also the ultimate experience for Katashi, as he suddenly spat and experienced an unbearable pain when his caged bird seal was summoned. While Hitomi made sure her daughters and Neji departed, Hayashi gestured to Naruto that they should stay put. Hayashi's anger was directed towards Hisashi. "Identify the individual who is at fault and use that as an argument." "Now, I am giving a growl," he declared. The individual in question had to be from the primary family, but who would act against him? He and his wife, as well as their child, would not be hurt by anyone. Despite the latter's unsatisfactory performance, Hinata was still his daughter. The thought of a member of Hayashi's family intentionally inflicting harm on them deeply affected him, causing him to become consumed with anger. Hisashi said, "Yes, please, I'm sorry," before bending down and walking away. After a member of the branch confirmed that the extra powder contained poison, as anticipated, Hayashi proceeded to meet Naruto, who had been present in the room following Hishi's hand gesture earlier. "Naruto, I want to acknowledge your efforts, and thank you so much for your help. Your efforts were instrumental in saving my wife and my daughter's life. I would have missed it if I hadn't been delayed enough." "Hayashi-sama, it was just a coincidence. Irrespective of one's luck. Whether it was a coincidence or not, this is the second time I have placed an order on your behalf. The Hyuga clan is always available to assist you in any way possible." Naruto's eyes were shut as he asked if there was something in the air. He shrugged and proceeded to exclaim, "I am unaware of what anyone else wants. Nevertheless, I am curious as to why people still call me Fox, a term that is frequently used by them when they believe they cannot hear anything. They seem to use that term as a way to refer to me. The term fox brat, a misbehaving imposter, or the simple slang that is used by people to refer to me. Hayashi was taken aback by the seemingly uncomplicated inquiry. I apologize for any inconvenience, but I will need to wait until tomorrow before responding to that question, Naruto. With little delay, Naruto took Hinata and her guard Ko to the academy. Naruto's inability to sleep was a result of overanalyzing the events and speculations of the previous day. The young boy would often think about the scene and it stuck with him. To what degree was the situation unfavorable? Naruto had acknowledged that Hyuga was highly reactive when it came to expressing emotions. Hayashi, the clan's leader, was not easily surprised. The man was, in essence, the ideal personification of a proper Hyuga that met its intended purpose. According to Naruto, Hayashi was also the embodiment of boredom. How awful would it be to constantly wear his mask? Naruto's only way out was when he changed into a dismissive mask. Naruto was aware that he had to take some risks in order to pass over the question posed by him. Naruto was aware of Hayashi's slip at the age of 9, which was a significant problem. The significance of Naruto's character was beyond his understanding, and he couldn't fathom what it might have been. He frequently inquired about the reasons for people's animosity towards him, despite his actions being unjust. He would occasionally ask his parents if they were criminals, but never found any answers. He was ignorant of his family and personal history. He had only a name and his date of birth. The latter were also a source of frustration. Despite having Uzumaki as his surname, he was unable to find much information about them. The Uzumaki were only mentioned as a clan from Uzushiogakure, even in books provided by Haruki that were stored at the Hyuga compound. There were only sporadic indications of his own wrongness through the occasional mention of the term fox. The Uzumaki area was not a concern for foxes. The Kyubi, a creature with demonic characteristics, was the only known victim of Naruto's demon hunt. As Naruto contemplated his decision, he felt a chill run down his spine. When the demonic fox attacked Konoha and born with a seal in his stomach, people gave him the nickname Fox. He may have been the Kyubi, but he was not aware of it. Maybe Yondaime Hokage's attack had a lasting impact on his memory, as it may have caused him to lose his power. Naruto was aware of his inability to compete with that demon. What is the next step? Naruto's inability to identify Hinata's halt in walking is evident. What would happen when he finally regains his powers and returns to his demon form? Naruto was aware that she would be angry if he encountered her, which led to the outcome. Despite this, he made an effort to rescue the situation and was swift enough to catch her before she would fall to the ground. The young Hyuga-era situation was worsened by this, as is frequently the case. It was impossible for Naruto to identify the source of his embarrassment or anger. He believed the latter was in line with how people usually treated him. Hinata was a difficult character for Naruto to understand. He was often perplexed by how she behaved around him due to her unique behavior compared to others. Naruto said, "Hinata-sama, I want to say sorry, sorry." Her cheeks prickled until her ears turned to pink. Alright, so she's expressing more animosity towards me than my previous friend. I assume this is it, but in reality, it's a pretty small place. I foresaw a surge in the academy's size. Hinata-sama, do you mind telling me to go in? He quipped, only to be mobbed by Ko's anger. As expected, Ko-team appears to think that he is not deserving of looking at me. Prick. Hinata whispered, "Why yes," and maintained her gaze away from him. Is it true that classes are as uninteresting as Niji-san portrays them? Naruto expressed his discomfort and attempted to lighten the atmosphere. Hinata's lack of success was largely due to his dark complexion, which turned out to be the case. He departed with a sigh, entered the building, and abandoned the two Hyuga. The Hokage asked Naruto, "How was your first day at the academy?" It's a good question to ask. I was surprised by how much of it was entertaining. It's likely that Haruki-san already taught me a lot of the things I've learned today. The history of the Shinobi of Konoha and other related topics is well known. That segment was rather uninteresting. Hiruzen laughed, stating, "I can imagine," before taking a more serious approach. "I learned yesterday that you had a question," Hiruzen said softly as he nodded off to Hayashi. "I'll say, I think. Hokage-sama, it is true. Can you explain what I am? I heard people talking about me and they called me a fox." Naruto quickly commented that Hiruzen's angry expression made him astonished, as they didn't realize it was him. "I'm hearing a bit better than most, so I can hear things that are not expected of me at times." "Are you familiar with the attempted poisoning that occurred yesterday?" prompted Hiruzen to respond. "Hayashi informed me about the situation." He gestured towards the clan leader who was seated with them in the office. "Yes, of course. Upon hearing someone's conversation, I recognized it was unfavorable and intervened. I'm at a loss as to why people are talking about the fox." Naruto's expression was one of a frown. He was hesitant to speak publicly, but resolved to ask for forgiveness when the situation became too much to handle. Despite his betrayal, his voice became weak and treacherous. Jaijazan is a term used to describe the practice of practicing what one does. Hiruzen's expression indicated that he was not the Kyuubi, and it was evident that Hayashi had not foreseen this straightforward inquiry. Hayashi's stoic expression seemed to be slightly affected by the diligence of Hyuga. "No, you are not the Kyuubi." Hiruzen remarked, "Don't you ever believe that you are?" He sighed and appeared older than anyone ever had seen Hayashi before when he heard, "Oh Naruto. You are not the fox, but you confine it. The Yondaime Hokage, who would be my successor, wore that seal because of this. He was unable to kill it, contrary to popular belief, so he had to seal it up. You are not part of it, but you are its prisoner." Naruto nodded and listened to the Hokage's explanation. He didn't fully understand the situation, but he was not a demon. He opted to accept the old man's statement that he wasn't in error. Despite the absence of a reason, people were still haunted by the actions and behavior of this demon that caused them to harbor such strong negative emotions towards him. "Why? Why me?" Naruto eventually responded with a rasping voice. He was worn out. Tired, simply because he had to think this thing into his head. "You were the final Uzumaki to be born. Hiruzen softly declared that you were the sole candidate and the best choice for it. The village was being attacked by something we couldn't hope to defeat. The village's complete destruction could have been avoided if the Yondaime didn't take action, and thanks to your efforts, he was able to save thousands of lives." Hayashi found it uncomfortable to be silent. The latter were aware of the truth and could perceive the pain that Hiruzen endured when he spoke about these things in Naruto. On the other hand, he recognized it. He, too, desires his children to grow up in a typical environment. Hayashi sighed, acknowledging that such things are not permissible in this world. With a tired voice, Hiruzen's words conveyed his regret. "I am so sorry, Naruto. I apologize for the sacrifice you had to make, and I am sorry about what they said. Keep the fox at arm's length and avoid aggressive behavior. In all probability, you are a hero to the people. People only offer you hatred as a reward for your sacrifice. Hatred is a result of the Kyuubi's ignorance and their own indifference." The thought caught Naruto off guard. He said. Why did people continue to accuse him of being forced into a situation where he didn't do anything wrong? How could the world have been this unequal? Even though they were friends, family, parents, and children, we all experienced the loss of a child on that day. The inhabitants had lost their abodes and leader. A little baby was all they needed to handle the monster that caused them so much suffering and pain. Hayashi sighed. I understand that it must be a struggle for you, and I acknowledge, it was incorrect. The Kyuubi's sole remaining vestige was the sadness that people took out on you. Despite being incorrect, the response was unavoidable. We thought that you would not comprehend, Hiruzen stated. I had the impression that the truth, even if you were young, would only make your circumstances more difficult to cope with. I didn't want to add any more stress than you did. Hiruzen acknowledged that he prohibited the disclosure of such information to anyone. There were those who aimed to kill you because of your actions. I hoped that by prohibiting anyone from discussing your burden and engaging in harmful behavior, the Kyuubi would be able to bring you a happy childhood. His old eyes drew a tear from him. I regret letting you down after not getting enough of Naruto. The boy heard everything but stood there in a frozen state. After Hiruzen's speech, Naruto stood up and exited the office, fearing to show his tears. Mimicrous tears of anger, sadness, and relief. He was relieved to have found a different side to be him instead of the monster he had mistaken as. He was unsure of how to express his emotions anymore. Despite being aware of the extent of his problem, he still struggled. Hinata was troubled. Change is not about her. She was aware that she consistently let down her father, owing to her lack of courage and talent. She was accepted by her mother, who appeared to be unconcerned about her shyness. She was anxious about another person, not me. She loathed herself, as she lacked the bravery to communicate with the boy who saved her life. Who rescued her twice, not just once. She was found reprehensible. Yesterday, Naruto's demeanor was rather disheartening. The cause of Katashi-san's situation puzzled Hinata, whose mother contradicted this belief. Despite her explanation, she refused to disclose the reason. Hinata had responded to the girl's inquiries and said, "Why don't you ask him about it?" Despite being surrounded by Ko on their way to the academy, she only observed his contemplative expression. Without warning, she lost the courage she had gathered. During the break, Hinata observed Naruto sitting on the swing in front of the academy. He gave the impression of being a lonely and melancholic person. She omitted the moment when she realized that she was touching her index finger once more. How can I be so nervous while Naruto-kun is in distress, she questioned herself. Naruto almost fell off his hat, as he said "He-hun," and Naruto-kun, without realizing her was approaching. He regained his lost confidence after that action and stated, "No. Hinata-sama, greetings." She asked, "Are you Naruto-kun?" with a skeptical expression. His speech was dissimilar to the Naruto language she was used to. His inquisitiveness was excessive, and his frailty was evident. Naruto was regarded by her as a source of strength. Witnessing that example behaved in such a defiant manner. Yes, I'm doing fine. Very well, Naruto said with a lack of excitement. Despite speaking, he maintained the absent gaze in his eyes. He appeared to wake up and realize who he was conversing with after she stopped speaking for a brief time. Hinata couldn't help but chuckle when she saw him scratching the back of his head. She was aware of the amount of time Haruki had dedicated to it. The Hyuga standards deemed such behavior as an indication of poor social grace. Despite Haruki's efforts, Naruto refused to stop. Naruto's lack of awareness about his actions caused Haruki to shed tears. Sure. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you can. The academy doesn't seem to satisfy you much. Naruto's expression was slightly embarrassed. He replied, "I'm not popular with most people, so I prefer to remain true to myself," and tried to smile away. Hinata was troubled by it, despite his observation. She observed his sly glances at the other children in their class, and how they shared laughs and played together. Hinata seemed interested in joining, but for some reason, he refused. "Do you think it'll eat lunch here?" she asked, her expression reflecting her intense joy. Naruto squinted and stared at her, wondering if she was serious. "Oh, not a single one. It's safe to say that I am not bothered." "Hinata-sama, since there's no elevator, would you rather go inside?" She awaited the opportunity to summon courage for her next inquiry. "I'm hungry, do you have a meal for me?" I saw you forgot your lunchbox, she squealed. I am seeking your input, please. Naruto appeared completely confused, and Hinata's initial reaction was to predict her rebuff, which caused her to fidget more. Would he reject her in the same way as everyone else? No, really. Expressed gratitude to Hinata-sama in a peculiar tone, as if he had doubts about the authenticity of the situation. With his head down on the grass, Naruto ate from the food that was too big for one person and had to be carried by her. Oka-san gave Hinata the lunchbox, but did she really want one? To enable me to function in any situation. Hinata celebrated their meal in supine circumstances, as she lost confidence in her voice and the man was confused by her sudden change of heart. Eventually, she was in closer proximity to him. After a while, she crossed the terrifying line that separated them. It pained her to know that Naruto was only a few foot away. It's remarkably close at hand. While he was eating, she observed the movements of his whiskers, leaving behind a confused look in his bright blue eyes. He had beautiful golden hair, she said, looking at him closely. She reminisced about the first time she laid eyes on him. Naruto asked, "What is the purpose of Hinata-sama doing this? I once thought she had a strong dislike for me, but now she's just offering me food. Is it possible that she is now less enraged? She never seemed interested in conversing with me, but at least she didn't flee this time. Regardless of the item, it is now more favorable than it was in previous years. The food is also of a pleasant standard. The question remains unanswered. I should express my gratitude to her, but how can I acknowledge the kindness of someone from the main house?" he asked as he looked up and realized why the room had become so quiet. It was after this that Hinata had ceased to eat. Her face remained bright red while she fainted. "The teachers don't seem to have a positive opinion of me," Naruto stated. The fact that he brought the unconscious Hyuga to them made them feel uneasy. The warmth of their glares persisted, and Naruto appeared to be more distant than before. The students imitated the actions of their teachers, after all. "Ah, well, I can see why," Naruto replied with a sense of relief. The history class this morning was a bit irritating. Mizuki, a chunin and teacher, had taught them about the 4 Hokage people. The first, known for his strength and exceptional abilities, the second, a younger brother of the first who was well known for being smart and intelligent, and the fourth, recognized for having made sacrifices to save the village. According to Mizuki, the third Hokage had retaken his position after the death of his successor, and Jizan was later named the Professor by Naruto due to his exceptional knowledge and wisdom. Naruto had pondered his thoughts on the old man. Naruto's decision to reveal the truth was not surprising since he was among the few who seemed to have faith in him. If Jizan is as sharp as Jack, it's likely that he could have already identified the best course of action for me. The information shared by Mizuki-sensei regarding Yandame's death was a source of concern for Konoha due to his passing. The fourth was always held in high esteem by Naruto, who was often depicted as the hero responsible for saving the village. During his childhood, Naruto had always harbored the aspiration to become a hero worthy of respect. He was the one who had to seal the Kyuubi within me, despite his reputation for being devious. Jizan and others should not be held accountable for their actions, as I don't think so. I am not at fault for what others have done, and it's important to be aware of the consequences. Naruto's actions in the small square in front of the manor were solely due to Yandame team. Today, Hinata was left alone after being dragged away by a bossy and dangerous blonde girl, who was followed by an insecure-looking pink-haired girl. The latter seemed to have a distaste for Naruto. Despite being mostly disguised as a pedantic behavior, it was evident that he could sense it. He was not truly at fault for her behavior. Just like the children at the orphanages, most of his classmates simply acted like Naruto's older brothers and sisters. Naruto had witnessed it repeatedly. Although he had only recently joined their class, this trend had already begun to surface. Despite being labeled Sakura by some, Naruto was slightly disappointed that the girl with pink hair behaved in such a manner towards him when she was bullied by others. Naruto had a desire for her to understand his experience of being an outcast. But that didn't stop her from picking on him, whenever she thought his behavior was annoying. To be honest, he couldn't fathom why someone who was bullied would inflict that same damage on others. His youth made him believe that it was nonsensical. It's possible that Hinata was trying to apologize for leaving, but Naruto had just walked back and wished her luck during the flower arranging class before heading back home. He was aware that Neji had left home a few hours earlier, as he had arranged to be 1 year older than him. He was the sole individual who waited for it. Naruto had no personal connections beyond those of Neji and Hinata. He has not been approached by anyone who would actually talk to him, at least not in person. Due to his predicament, Naruto believed that a little alone can be advantageous. He realized that the reason why Jizan and Hayashi-sama didn't come forward was because they were unable to comprehend the information. They had conversed with him on several occasions about his destiny. Naruto was referred to as a Jinchuriki by them. A Jinchuriki was an individual who held the demon within their body. Naruto's sense of hope for others like him during their conversation was short-lived as they informed him that there were no other Jinchuriki in Konoha. While opening the door of Naruto's cottage in the Hyuga compound, he noticed that one of the windows had been left open. Naruto was cautious about potential invaders and concluded that Haruki-san's behavior was not similar to his. A familiar voice whispered, "Who is there?" "It's been a while, Naruto," she said. "You've grown up to be a really big boy, haven't you? What did they give you that helped you grow so much?" Naruto had not heard that voice in years, but still recognized it immediately. The man sighed when asked, "Toad boy, what are you doing in my house?" Naruto, the Toad Sage, is an iconic figure in Japanese culture. The individual referred to as Jiraiya. He sarcastically added, "All right, I am just a toad, you are fox." Naruto's confused expression made Jiraiya chuckle. "The Hokage disclosed to me that you were made aware of your. He requested me to instruct you on a few things. You must be able to handle this stuff with greater ease and efficiency. I'm not sure if I can attend, but could you please teach me?" Hayashi is aware that the academy will receive a notice from the old man himself, so don't worry. We will be back in soon. Naruto-kun was surprised when Haruki told him that he had already prepared his backpack, which shocked him when the boy returned behind. "We are inviting you to Jiraiya-sama and ask for your utmost care and attention. Make sure to teach him the importance of good citizenship." Haruki's tone was formal and respectful, with some worry, as he added, "And so it goes." It was clear to Haruki that Jiraiya had a separate profession under his belt. It was not appropriate for a 9-year-old boy to engage in reading erotic novels. It is a fact that Haruki would have preferred to accompany the boy on his travels. "Don't worry," Jiraiya said with a smile. "I'll bring the brat with me to the forests near Konoha. The jutsu I plan to teach him will likely require some space." Jiraiya ensured that no one would notice him leaving the village by taking Naruto's stunned backpack and dragging it with them as he left the estate. "For 2 weeks, that's adequate. With the bunshin and summoning contract, I am likely to require all the time I can get." Although the sensei and Hayashi believe the 9-year-old brat has talent, they are not expecting him to grow so rapidly. Is it accurate to say, "all right"? With a shyness of 1 second, she inquired, "Where did Naruto-kun go? And why wasn't he in today's classes?" "He's not feeling well, is he?" she inquired. "He is fine, no problem. It's a well-known fact that Naruto cannot be sickened." "Don't worry," Haruki said, smiling gently. The fact that Naruto-kun left Konoha for training means that he is not at all concerned about his safety. "It's only going to be a few days," he added, after seeing her distraught expression. Naruto-kun faced challenges in acquiring the academy's lessons. Hinata-sama is not under my concern as he receives individual lessons to handle those problems. Haruki observed her as she bowed down and expressed gratitude, before departing. The girl was described as a pitiful woman. Her kindness surpasses any other kind person. It would have been great if she wasn't the heir. Despite the small bouquet of flowers she left on his student's doorstep, he still looked at him with a smile. She has already reached a point of admiration, or so it seems. This is the reason why she behaved when Naruto spoke to her. Hinata-sama, he shouted at her. Hinata muttered, "Why yes, Haruki-san," and wondered what had occurred. "Let's just say that Naruto-kun needs some flowers, and why don't you help me put them in a vase?" Haruki inquired. Despite the girl's intense blushing, she agreed and assisted him. She could stay in Naruto's cottage for a brief period, possibly due to the circumstances. Through Haruki's teachings on the 12-hand seals, Naruto became proficient in the skill. The young boy found the Bunshin no Jutsu process challenging. Naruto had only 2 copies of himself made in the next 48 hours, and both copies looked ill-made and frail at first, but then they both faintly exploded in a cloud of gray smoke. The forms are suitable, the way he draws on his chakra is precise, and there is no lack of chakra in him. Jiraiya wondered what I was missing, wondering if she had those Byakugan. It's not the first time, don't you think? Jiraiya's life was reliant on him receiving the Byakugan, which became his dream. The use of either the Hokage's crystal ball or that option would allow him to conduct any research he desired. The fact that Jiraiya had neither was a blessing to Konoha women. The Bunshin no Jutsu is fundamental. Since my time as a genital individual, I haven't been using the jutsu extensively. If I want him to become a Kage Bunshin, it's crucial that he knows how to do it. It occurred to him all of a sudden. The term basics is used to describe the fundamental concepts. I'm shocked at how I don't follow the same rules as everyone else, never putting in effort to develop his chakras. Or practicing my art. He didn't need to grow his reserves as much as anyone else, which is a shame. The opposite is likely to be true for him as he must first master the management of his reserves. Is it a good idea to skip the Kage Bunshin segment? It's important to be cautious that he may not go overboard with the chakra. His attempts to kill him are too much for me to bear. Naruto proceeded without any knowledge of Jiraiya's thoughts. Naruto's confidence was compromised during his training. His chakra control was always lagging behind others, which Neji and others appreciated. Naruto's attempts to teach him something fundamental were either unsuccessful or far-fetched. Like how he failed spectacularly when required to blow the breeze, but instead destroyed part of the garden. He was irritated by the old man's inquisitive stare. Despite the geezer's patience, Naruto couldn't fathom why he had to learn this independently of his other children. He recollected the man a few times and was gifted stuffed toys in the shape of frogs when he was very young. A frog-shaped wallet, named Gamachan by Naruto, was discovered by him over a year ago. Naruto was under the impression that he received it from this person. Despite his efforts, Naruto was unable to decipher the truth about him. What is the reason behind someone willingly spending time with their loved one, even though they don't have darker skin to speak of? Naruto was shown a different assortment of hand seals by him, with the words, "Naruto, I think you might find interesting in doing this. The recommended practice is to concentrate only half of your chakra in one location." Naruto nodded and followed the instruction given by Haruki to determine his own chakra reserves. His initial attempts were unsuccessful due to the sequence of seals being either messed up or his lack of chakra generation at the appropriate moment, but on the 4th attempt, it was successful. With a pale expression, Jiraiya gazed at 5 Naruto's items before turning blue. Kami's words were retweeted by the group. Gradually, he began exclaiming. During that period, there were numerous clones present, including some of the Jonins. These clones were firm, in contrast to his previous endeavors. They all appeared confused when he saw himself so many times. I was correct in my assessment. The presence of your chakras makes it nearly impossible for you to perform basic skills, poorer children. A few of the Narutos scowled, as if they were unaware of whether Jiraiya was complimenting them or not. Jiraiya retrieved several sheets from his pockets that held the drafts for his next book and presented them to various clones. He said, "Let me just say that I have read them. After reading them, remove one of the bunshins." Despite their confusion, the Narutos laughed at the man and followed his words with laughter. It could be anything. Naruto glanced at his clones while blinking. Stay tuned. 4. You've grasped the situation, Jiraiya chuckled. Can you explain how I recall the words spoken by the bunshin? Naruto was surprised when he realized that his clone had some knowledge of what it said. By popping another bunshin, Naruto was certain that the incident was not a freak accident. How can this be explained? I was astonished to learn that bunshin had the ability to do this, he declared. I'm aware of what he just read. What I discovered, that's for sure. It is impossible for the bunshin no jutsu, but easy for those who are good at it. Unlike the elemental bunshin, which is made entirely of chakras, the Kage Bunzeti is not yet created. Jiraiya patiently explained that you can create a complete duplicate of yourself that can think and act independently, with the added advantage of returning any events to its creator when it is dispelled. Due to the high amount of chakra, jutsu is not achievable for most shinobi, except for those who possess high chunin or jonin level chakra reserves. However, taking into account your personality. Jiraiya paused for a moment. You are aware of who you are and the kind people you hold within. Your reserves are likely already at the jonin level, but your ability to control them is severely lacking. As a young child, you possess an excessive amount of raw chakra. It's just a matter of using it correctly. 5 was a challenge for you, but once you're proficient in using your chakras, working with 12 clones should be effortless. After delivering his speech, Jiraiya's exaggerated pose caused Naruto to grimace. I'm unsure whether the teacher is the best or the most foolish one in existence, as evidenced by moments like that. After counting 16 clones, he finished doing so a few hours later. It proceeded at a much faster pace than my initial projection. Even though his clones are not as strong or effective against each other as they were when he first came up with them, the accomplishment of having 16 Kate Bunshin is impressive for someone his age. I can allow him to sign the Toad summoning contract, give him the scrolls, and practice Fuinjutsu by guiding his clones. Jiraiya's expression was grimacing as he believed that the outcome could be successful. Despite reading the reports, Naruto's growth was not as rapid as he had anticipated, especially during his 14-month absence from Konoha. The Hyuga's appointed guardian appeared to have performed miracles on him. Naruto's chakra control and capacity had grown significantly, but this was not the only change. The cocky guy has always been troubled. Jiraiya wondered who should be held accountable for the treatment he received. He reminisced about his outburst when he learned about the mistreatment of Naruto by the last orphanage, even though the owner was fortunate enough to have been punished by Hiruzen. In any other scenario, Jiraiya would have made sure that she ended up like a petrified toad. Instead of wanting to be petrified, she may have wanted to. Despite the improvement, Naruto chose not to reveal much about himself. Abandoning adults and avoiding interactions with other children. Naruto had a connection between social interaction and danger, particularly with people of his own age, which caused Jiraiya to feel scared when he contemplated the potential consequences. It was a significant moment for my foolish sensei to choose to tell him the truth. Jiraiya sighed, acknowledging that it was premature. It would be more advantageous to reveal the truth, as Naruto had already figured out why he was despised. If he had been walking around with incorrect thoughts, it would have been worse. Nevertheless, it remains unclear why the child behaves in this manner. His demeanor is deteriorating as time goes on. Jiraiya made the decision to go fishing for the truth while he was in close proximity. "How's the academy treating you, Naruto?" He scowled with irritation, feeling slightly annoyed that he was distracted from gathering chakra for his next attempt to carry out the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu battle. "If Haruki-san is correct, I'm likely to gain a lot of knowledge from it." Jiraiya lowered his head slightly. Despite being told the truth by others, the boy deceived himself. "Are you familiar with your classmates?" "Exactly?" he asked. "Do you have any interactions with them? Do you think there are some nice girls?" "I know no one, except Hinata-sama," Naruto shrugged, uncaringly. "You're not being truthful, are you? There's a blonde girl who appears to be having an affair. Be careful. I believe her name was Ino." With a blank stare, Naruto observed that the girl with pink hair was always following her, questioning the wisdom of the older man's request. Jiraiya pondered, "Do you have any plans to meet them? I bet that we could end up being good friends." Naruto asked, "Are you a friend?" "Irrespective of whether, but it's improbable. They have no motive to approach me, and I'm comfortable with staying at a distance. People always try to keep a distance from me, even though they don't know who I am." Our teachers quickly absorbed this, one of the few things they learned. Jiraiya corrected him by saying, "Don't call yourself a what? You are Uzumaki Naruto, and you will be a shinobi of Konoha. It appears to be a great shinobi. Believe me or not, I have a great talent. P.S. No matter what people do to you, you are not responsible for the creature that was trapped inside of you." "Ah, no worries." Naruto's scowl was heard. "If they shouldn't, they will still do it." Jiraiya continued, "You will be called a Jinchuriki by many, for you are the prisoner of the demon that was sealed within you," as if Naruto had never been spoken to. "Although, you are a typical individual. Survival in this world requires a companionship from all of us. It's impossible for anyone to survive while being alone. Additionally, upon graduation, you will participate in a genin team consisting of 2 classmates. Spend some time getting to know them and make them realize how untrue you can be." After opening his mouth, Naruto closed it again, as if to forget his intended message. He spoke again after a brief period of silence. "I might try, if they didn't hold me in high regard like the others did. If not, I simply follow my own path and become capable enough to no longer require assistance from anyone." With a hint of sadness, Jiraiya stated that Naruto, "There's no reason why anyone should be alone and not live by themselves. If you had no one to rely on, what would be your goal in life?" Naruto decided to change the topic instead of continuing with his usual dialogue. "Before the Kage Bunshin, why did I learn how to do it?" Jiraiya sighed, knowing that the stubborn boy would not want to talk about it anymore. He asserted that this kid was more unyielding than his former teammate. However, she was also a part of Uzumaki. Jiraiya suspected that every Uzumaki had a stubborn nature, which may have been influenced by their mother's actions. In order to learn the Shadow Clone variant, individuals must first have their hands on the regular Bunshin before starting. You already have too much chakra, or at least lack control over it. Although you cannot take the standard one, which is mandatory for your final exam, you have minimal difficulty with the advanced form. It is necessary to practice chakra control until you are capable of limiting the amount of chakra you use in basic jutsu. "Is it still too much of a chakra?" Naruto asked. "I believed I had a sufficient margin, and only made the most of it when I could." "It was still a lot, to say almost," Jiraiya quipped. The normal Bunshin was unable to function due to this. As previously mentioned, the Kage Bunshin necessitates more chakra to prevent overcapacity, which can cause it to fail like the simple Bunden. On the other hand, I advise you to keep this ability a secret. "Why do they teach you the regular Bunshin?" Jiraiya murmured. "If people were aware of your proficiency, you would be viewed with distrust. I hope that they are unaware of the fact that I've been teaching you." Jiraiya sighed and replied, why do you think I should keep this under wraps? I can't quite put into words, but if too many people were aware that you and I were acquainted with each other, it would be difficult to understand. It has the potential to be detrimental. I want to keep it under wraps, for the time being, from revealing that I train you. I made sure to take all necessary precautions when we left town because of this. Having completed the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, we will now move forward with the task. He now wore a slight orange belt over the usual white robes with long sleeves and black pants, which were customary among lower levels of the Hyuga clan. Upon his return, Hinata was pleased and promptly went to talk to him after their break. Ino's care of the hesitant Hyuga heiress was assumed by her, but she could escape. Hinata and Naruto had not been able to meet the others from the previous year, as they were trained by the Hyuga clan. The Dojutsu clans always kept their children from the academy in the first year, as they learned the fundamental skills in a different way. The academy teachers were unable to comprehend, so they could learn by looking. The usage and identification of chakra were vastly dissimilar to them. Naruto's lessons on the estate were not applicable to him, but for some reason he was given them. Haruki's teaching skills were superior to those at the academy, and he didn't mind. I'm blown away by your talent, man. While walking outside with a sluggish pace, Naruto yelled out as he realized why the strange creatures can transmit memories but not rest. Hinata muttered, na Naruto-kun. Naruto's posture was like, Hinata-sama, good morning, as he said hello. He didn't reveal that Hinata had been waiting for him if he was startled. However, this could also be because he was too fatigued to respond. Please don't write a P word, please keep it simple. Don't make use of that title. She scowled, acknowledging that she and her peers are just classmates. Naruto's expression was a grimace, as he mistakenly believed that his politeness caused her to be angry. I'm at a loss for words. Hinata-sam, as you please. Maintaining a healthy state of mind is crucial. Ayo, okay? Oh, no worries. He smiled, but he had to skip some classes and receive more training. It's evident that my chakra control was somewhat problematic. He lifted a leaf, held it up, and said, watch, before placing the leaf on his head. Hinata was shown that he focused some of his chakra into the leaf while activating her Byakugan. Whenever she used his chakra to analyze him, she felt like he was the only person she knew who had two chakra colors. Unfortunately, Naruto's little performance was marred when the leaf fell apart. Naruto hurriedly tossed the burning leaf and stamped on it to put out its small flames. The only good news was that nobody else saw his failure, but Naruto saw someone walking towards them. We're gonna go together again? Asked a blonde girl in jest. The way you and I interact with each other is something that could make one feel uneasy about the relationship, she stated in a curious tone. Hinata's poor mind suddenly exploded with the phrase, relationship. And smashed. Hinata-chan was unresponsive, prompting the girl to ask, wait, what's going on? Naruto shrugged when he saw the girl, who had suddenly flashed a bright red light, and looked down. He said, she'll be okay in a few minutes, and the blonde looked at him with curiosity. He said, don't look at me, I didn't do anything wrong. From time to time, she does this. I presume she is unwell or has some other issue, but she consistently asserts that it wasn't the case. The temperature is too high for him. Are you at the Hyuga compound? Apparently, not me. It's true that they took me in a couple of years ago. He chuckled, do you happen to be related to the Hyuga? They extended an invitation for me to reside at their residence. It is unquestionably superior to any orphanage. Hinata-chan, did you know about this? Nah, I don't think we ever talked much. Naruto then scowled. Just a question for you, Ino quipped. Yamanaka Ino, she exclaimed, her hand extending. Naruto's stare at her hand caused her to frown and say, I don't think I would bite you. Uzumaki Naruto, he inquired, "Why is she doing this?" but chose to acknowledge the gesture. I asked, "Would you like to bring Hinata-sama back in?" "No, not at all," Ino replied. "But wait, I haven't posed any questions about the baby yet." The majority of the others seemed to disregard him, as their teachers and parents had done. Her father refused to disclose any information about the boy, despite his apparent tiredness as a result of the subject matter. Ino, however, remained unyielding. Her determination to solve his mystery was stronger as he became more and more puzzling. Uzumaki Naruto was not a typical child, as per Yamanaka Ino's knowledge. He had a distinct personality that was not present in other individuals. Despite her inability to explain why or how it happened, she recognized his exceptional qualities. While keeping tabs on him, she observed that he had a preference for being alone, but appeared to be comfortable with Hinata's company. Except for her, he was completely unapproachable and did not communicate with any of the other children in their class. Even after more than 6 months since they first joined class together, he was still an outcast. Shino, who was always silent, remained more closely linked to them than Naruto. Shikamaru inquired of her classmate, "Why is it that he's known for being isolated?" after learning about his origin from an orphanage. "I'm puzzled, can you believe it?" Shikamaru sighed. "Hey, if you were from an orphanage, do you really want to make friends?" He asked why she was prying, even though Naruto clearly didn't want to discuss it. If Naruto desires to be alone, he should seek solitude. Don't be too gullible and stick your tongue in your head. Before he spoke, Nara Shikamaru was already aware of her true identity and the fact that she wouldn't just leave it that way. The look he saw was familiar to him for a long time. The perplexing enigma of hers. His eyes welled up as he sighed. It's a known fact that most of the adults don't get along with him, for some reason. What is the reason behind Mizuki-sensei's eyes appearing to stare at Naruto? Naruto's demeanor is that of a nice person, even though he appears to be very cautious about remaining in close proximity to others. There's a secret that we can't possibly get behind. Or their behavior would be completely unintelligible. Despite not disclosing his father's statement to Ino, it seems like they may not have any good reason to hate him. Naruto may be different from other children, but the behavior of others should not affect you. Despite the fact that many people dislike him and hold him in contempt, the Hokage has faith in him. Determine who you are, form a self-reliant perspective on him. You must follow your gut instincts and avoid taking erroneous actions, as I taught you to do, or else you'll end up making the same mistakes. While reflecting on the contradiction, Shikamaru frowned. What was the reason behind his inability to listen to others and accept their opinions? It proved to be a difficult situation for adults. Hinata, who was equally curious but not as transparent, also sought to understand Uzumaki Naruto. She found it more difficult to start a conversation with him as her hesitations persisted. Despite his efforts, he never spoke to himself. It was evident that he was masking his true talent, as she saw his work at the Hyuga complex, but she couldn't wrap her head around it. Despite being physically capable and not mentally unstable, why was he deliberately holding back? Why were others unwilling to engage with him, and why did some of the teachers behave differently towards him? Hinata felt like she was let down by people at the academy. She was not a popular figure, in fact. The fact that she was the heiress of the famous Hyuga clan appeared to intimidate most people. Besides individuals born in similar high positions within their families, like Ino, Shikamaru, or Choji, there are also others. It appears that Naruto never had any expectations of anyone. Hinata suspected that his lack of attraction to others was not the case, despite what most would assume. There was a reason why he was in hiding. Some days, she could sense that he was weak when she looked at him while activating her Byakugan. It appeared that he had access to only a small portion of his regular chakra. In the classroom, she wouldn't openly activate her Byakugan. The Byakugan was perceived as unappealing and terrifying by many. I'm apathetic and need someone to talk to. Observing from afar and never in close proximity to him, always keeping an eye on him. Uzumaki Naruto's lack of attendance in most classes is a little-known fact. Upon mastering the art of Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he only sent clones to take part in lectures. However, by attending Teijitingu and Bukijuteisu trainings, his secret weaponry was kept hidden from his own peers. Instead, he believed it was more beneficial for him to spend time with the scrolls that the Toad Sage had given him. Naruto had been gifted scrolls from the Uzumaki clan by Jiraiya, who had permission from Hayashi and at the urging of the Hokage. As the last survivor of his clan, Naruto was entitled to the scrolls. Despite the fact that Jiraiya had sealed most of the scrolls, they were still preserved in their original form, similar to Naruto's explanation given during the presentation of his scroll. Before unlocking the seals that were placed on them, the Toad Hermit had warned him that he needed to learn the necessary requirements from the scrolls. Those skills will be accessed when you are prepared to use them. I arranged them in that manner for that reason. The fundamental theory of Fuinjutsu should be learned first. Once you've determined that, you can start preparing the low-ranked seals. Your clan's children were taught in that manner, according to sources I can confirm. Naruto's annoyance was felt so intense that the old man had to give her a pat on the head. There aren't many people with extensive knowledge of Fuinjutsu to speak of, despite my smile, he stated. Take your time and learn as much as you can, as soon as possible. Keep your words to yourself until the end. Jiraiya had only made a single deviation from Naruto's pledge of secrecy. Naruto was pleased to have Haruki assist him wherever he could. Over time, his capacity to assist had weakened. Naruto had been ignorant of this for a while, but it was now apparent that his caretaker was unwell. Haruki appeared to regret his decision to quit as a shinobi, although they never discussed the matter extensively. Naruto was concerned about his caretaker and frequently provided him with support. Naruto was also puzzled by the man's apparent indifference to his own future. Naruto's training regimen was not impacted by the situation. The scrolls contained a lot of theory about the Uzumaki clan's Fuinjutsu techniques, which Haruki could use to aid him in understanding them, although he was unable to produce enough chakra to create the seals himself. The ability to see through the details was a rare quality in Naruto's seals. At least not before. Nonetheless, his eagerness was not as intense as his inability to learn his clan's methods. According to Naruto, it was the only way he knew his family and theirs. It gave him the impression that he was involved in something more significant. The growth of Naruto's skill was not always apparent, but with the aid of Haruki and his Kage Bunshin, it exceeded expectations. Haruki was able to alter seals in ways that were not possible for him due to Naruto's exceptional creativity. Haruki did not claim that his pupil was a genius when asked about it. That would be an excessively risky decision. Due to Haruki's Byakugan frequently avoiding costly errors, Naruto was not in need of excessive confidence. Naruto rapidly acquired the skills of Kawarimi no Jutsu by using his clones. An invaluable resource for testing seals that could potentially injure or incapacitate due to explosions, shock waves, or electrocutions upon activation. A small crater was discovered after multiple clones were able to survive. Despite his skill, the majority of seals he learned were used for practical purposes, such as a storage seal that allowed him to carry multiple items at any time. Naruto's favored seal was so prominent that it made it impossible to detect him. The Sutoruse no Fuin, stealth seal, as Naruto had named it, was unexpected for Jiraiya, who usually made periodic visits. Jiraiya jokingly suggested that it was more effective than his peeping jutsu, which earned him a glance from Haruki. However, he admitted to being unaware of the Uzumaki scroll's contents. Naruto did not emphasize on a fact. The seal did not appear to be present in any of the scrolls. A part of the mask that Naruto had found in a damaged temple during his abduction was kept by him, which had been an important aspect of his life. Despite the mask's seal being very small and partially broken, Naruto was able to recreate it. The consumption of chakras to uphold the seal was not a joke. Even though Naruto had discovered his incredible chakra capacity, he still couldn't achieve it as time had passed at the academy. Naruto believed that this seal would be of no use to anyone except for himself. Nonetheless, it was of great significance to him. Naruto's growth was gradual, but he kept his progress hidden from his peers. Naruto's performance in classes was satisfactory, but he made an effort to avoid being noticed. He drew enough attention to him as he was, even though they were unaware of his guest status. Ino repeatedly pushed and threatened to provide additional information to him. He observed the timid Hyuga heiress closely over several occasions. During breaks, Naruto would activate the stealth seal to avoid Ino when he noticed someone wearing a blonde ponytail. Naruto sighed and acknowledged that, "Some people are too inquisitive, while I have no intention of disclosing any information that may lead to suspicion." Jiraiya had been promised by him not to reveal his abilities for the time being, and Naruto assured him that he would always honor his word. The fact that his secrecy didn't seem to work was worth noting. Some people had a different perspective on him than others. Naruto would describe him as a friendly boy, much like Shikamaru. Had Naruto not developed doubts about the Nara's inability to hate him, it would have been logical. Shikamaru and Choji, who were both nerdy Akimichi, often teamed up during class to avoid any awkward situations, which Naruto was unaware of but appreciated. However, due to his observation of the unruly Inuzuka's behavior, he never called out the normally calm and gentle Choji fat. Despite their peculiar conduct, it was beneficial for Naruto's development, as they were probably the only ones who cooperated with Hinata in their efforts. During the most unfavorable times, the latter repeatedly passed out. During a taijutsu session, Naruto accidentally hit her in the chest. He attempted to clarify to her how he had thrown his kunai and accidentally touched her hand. The academy taught Naruto that girls were peculiar creatures. This is not to mention the perilous nature of it all. Naruto quickly learned to avoid Sakura, who was known for his short temper. Not to mention the determination that someone as good as Ino displayed on a daily basis. However, there was only one person in the class whom Naruto could relate to. It was ironic that the boy was his doppelganger in almost everything. Nearly everyone had a great fondness for Uchiha Sasuke, and almost every girl was drawn to her. Naruto was disliked by some teachers, but he was also liked. Naruto had a fondness for entertaining Sasuke on occasion. The latter always aimed to be the top-performing student and managed defeats well, making it an easy task. Irregularly so. Naruto's perspective on the boy changed when he discovered that his clan had been slaughtered during a single night at the Uchiha estate. Despite Sasuke's spoiler-free behavior and disregard for others' love, trust, or admiration, Naruto was not content with his actions. Although Naruto never had any family members, Sasuke lost everything he loved. The Uchiha boy's attempts to conceal his pain, sadness, and loneliness were easily discernible by Naruto. Naruto's ability to understand and relate to this was unquestionable. Naruto's reflection in the mirror had a striking impact on Sasuke, who looked like him. However, Naruto did experience instances where the boy's anger and hatred grew stronger after losing a match. It seemed as though a dim-lit ambience was waiting for him to be consumed. Naruto's introspective state allowed him to acknowledge that he also harbored feelings of anger and hatred. He was filled with gratitude for the Hyuga's support, feeling that he would never be able to repay it. He expressed his gratitude to Hinata and promised to keep her safe from all forms of evil. Hitomi, Haruki, and many of the other Hyuga were also grateful to him. Similar to his appreciation for Jiraiya and the Hokage. Naruto was unable to forget how he had been treated by others. Those who lived nearby, as well as many of his peers and instructors, including Mizuki, the disgraced child. A significant portion of them treated him as if he were a disobedient dog who they would rather kill than educate. Naruto believed that Umino Iruka was a dissimilar teacher to Mizuki. Apart from the Hokage and Jiraiya, Iruka was probably the only non-Hyuga adult who treated him as if he were an actual human. Upon seeing the boy wandering the streets of Konoha, he became aware of his previous practice of giving Naruto ramen. Naruto did not grasp the man's actions, but he never forgot about it. Following that moment, the duo made occasional trips to the ramen store, and Naruto eventually developed trust in the man. It's a little bit of everything. The name Uzumaki Naruto was bestowed upon us by one of the instructors. After several years, Naruto was summoned to the academy's classroom for the final exam. The theoretical components were already in place. Yesterday's Taijutsu and Bukijutsu exams were passed with ease by Naruto, just as they had been the previous day. The only thing left for him was to take the ninjutsu exam, which he had to do at this time. He found the most bothersome person to be. Naruto closed the door behind him and then saw Mizuki taking charge. It was predictable, given that he had started off like this on all exams, seemingly desperate to make Naruto fail. As a newcomer to the academy, can you demonstrate your proficiency in Henge no Jutsu? Naruto smiled. He was unable to use the Bunshin, but Naruto confessed that he had not put in much effort into it. The Kage Bunshin no Jutsu was taught to him, but he didn't think it was necessary. Following the person's selection of all the techniques he thought were not effective in his abilities, Naruto was bitterly aware that Mizuki bastard was now trying to make him a failure. With the knowledge that Naruto's attempt at Bunshin no Jutsu was unsuccessful, he chose to keep it for his final shot. I appreciate your input, but I'd rather avoid that jutsu, Mizuki-sensei, the boy grimaced as he was asked whether the exam was on target. The Haruki taught me how to read people's expression and posture, even though I didn't possess the Byakugan. Naruto's sigh was heard. I am aware that I am unable to execute the Bunshin no Jutsu, sensei, as you all know. However, if you are not in the minority, I have an alternative idea that I could demonstrate. Mizuki inquired, uncertain about another alternative. What is the other choice? After securing a few hand seals, Mizuki saw the entire classroom filled with Naruto's and his mouth fell open. Despite being shocked, Iruka's reaction was one of cheers. Was this Kage Bunshin taught to you by anyone? Naruto asked with a shrug and grin, unaware that such knowledge is not applicable to ordinary people. Iruka-sensei, I can't reveal, but I promised not to disclose it. Is it accurate to say that I cleared the final exam? Iruka hesitated and raised his head, holding his forehead protector. Naruto, you are worthy of receiving this honor. Good luck in reaching genius. He grinned at the exaggerated theatrical bowing performed by Naruto, aware that this was likely his first time seeing him in genuine happiness. Like the Hokage said at Iruka's appointment last year, this boy had suffered more from the fox than anyone else. While Iruka was moved by the loss of his parents in Naruto, this boy was not the demon that haunted him. After getting to know the boy, Iruka became angry about being labeled as the demon by everyone else. Naruto's intention was to remind Iruka of his younger self rather than just bringing him up to the Kyuubi. Iruka chuckled as he said, I think I owe you some ramen to celebrate this, right? He was laughing at himself, but Naruto deserves his own. Naruto's beam made him smile even more. Upon leaving the academy, Naruto observed Hitomi waiting outside as he was about to be released. It was obvious that Hinata was in close proximity to him, but she always appeared to have problems with him. Naruto, how did you fare in your examination? He held up the metal plate with the sign of Konoha and smiled. Hitomi-sama, that's all there is to it. The boy chimed in, saying, no jutsu even though I made up too much of the Bunshin. It was a pleasant surprise for them, said the Hyuga, who knew Naruto had revealed his alternative companion. The Hyuga clan was unaware of Naruto's proficiency with the Kage Bunshin, as they did not come across any evidence of him being one of many other Narukis scattered throughout the training grounds, library, or his own cottage. Naruto hasn't been so gloomy in a long time. Hinata displayed her prize to Naruto while flashing both a smile and blurring. The aftermath could be interpreted as a party. To the best of Hyuga's knowledge, that is. Instead of raucous music, laughter, or free banter, Naruto was invited to a cozy dinner with the main family. It's fortunate that this dinner was a safe one. The Hyuga clan's tumultuous state of mind was a positive development. Several incidents had occurred, including fires, among the residents of the compound. A few perished, while others had disappeared without a trace. The Hyuga was astonished to witness someone's ability to inflict harm without their awareness. The alleged all-seeing Byakugan did not assist them, leading to accusations of blame being made against them. The rift between the main and branch families was intensified by their proximity, but Naruto was widely blamed. Despite the lack of evidence, it was clear that he had been involved in something. Naruto was said to be accountable, according to rumors from both sides of the clan. Naruto's fondness for futon jutsu, rather than Kato Nikki, was revealed by a simple test. The suspicions were largely dispelled, but not all of them. The Kyuubi's ability to breathe in fire was a well-known belief among the masses. Naruto's actions did not prevent him from becoming a suspect whenever he found corpses or missing someone. The Hyuga clan, even after years of living together, were still unable to trust Uzumaki Naruto. Despite being tedious, Naruto made an effort to avoid it. He was not openly attacked by the Hyuga due to their civil nature. Unlike the shopkeepers in Konoha who would throw him out without any reason, or the more hostile reactions that some people had towards his presence. Naruto was aware of his identity and the injustice he faced, which left him feeling frustrated. He had to accept it and move on, as he was forced to do. The boy was told by Haruki, at least this time. The act of lingering in the past and feeling bitter towards individuals for their past actions was not advisable. Naruto's age makes him a young man. Haruki consistently advised him not to treat anyone unfairly. The reason Naruto gave his approval was because Elder Hyuga had warned him that certain behaviors would not be appropriate for a Hokage. Those things were not a concern for Naruto tonight. It was a night of festivity tonight. Despite its formal nature, the Hyuga's 2 residents being promoted gave them an extra reason to celebrate with a little feast. The clan's 2 children, who were arguably the least trusted, were also concerned. Despite Naruto's lack of trust in him, Hinata was only trusted for a short period. Her personality and skill were both questioned by many members of the clan. It was widely acknowledged that Hinata was too lenient to be considered a proper shinobi to achieve this feat. Hitomi did not permit anyone to openly speak about her daughter. Even though the gossip was unstoppable, it was undeniable that her husband was the first to express disappointment with their daughter's talent. Hanabi, the younger sister of Hinata, was regarded as a highly skilled member of the clan, which only made matters worse for the young heiress. Hinata's position as heir was uncertain due to the greater potential and determination of her younger sister. Hayashi had recently shifted his attention from teaching Hinata to teach Hanabi, which was previously neglected. The uncertainty of Hinata's future left many people wondering when she might fall apart. Despite the sadness, this dinner was a relatively happy occasion. The food options were ample to please all of Naruto's hunger. Despite Haruki's attempts to persuade him, he was still unaware of why ramen was not appropriate for festive occasions. It seems that Hinata and Hitomi both found the conversation to be highly entertaining, causing him to scratch his head in shame. If we hadn't taught this boy proper etiquette, how much less polite would he be today? After seeing the display, Haruki sighed and acknowledged the reality that Naruto would be a repeat offender in this setting. Naruto would always remain in a foreign environment within the formal confines of the Hyuga clan. Despite his apparent joy, the few who knew him well realized that it was simply a facade. In light of Naruto's burden, Haruki spoke with Hayashi about this matter recently. Naruto's recollection of living in a more relaxed and informal setting at the end of the dinner left Haruki feeling perplexed. He suggested that such situations might not have been as challenging as they are today. Does the way Hayashi-sama looks at him indicate that he is slowly being infected by the monster? At times, Naruto even shares similarities with the fox formerly known as the fox. If it were not me. Haruki pondered not only his physical strength but also his mental strength, as evidenced by the video. It's possible that this alteration presents a good opportunity for him. He may finally form meaningful relationships with children of his age if they are part of a team. It would provide him with a convincing reason to avoid the corrupting influence of the bijou. The classroom was reserved for the remaining 9 test-takers who were considered genin. This was the final time Naruto had to spend time in a place he had grown disillusioned with, much to his delight. It's more like a bittersweet moment for you, as I thought to myself, why do you think that? The majority of the most irate members of his class had already made it to the teams that were previously summoned. Apart from the Uchiha, I hope they won't put me in a team with the right mindset. A man with black hair, bearded height, and tallness entered the room only after some time. In an unassuming manner, he inquired, should I ask Akimichi Choji, Nara Shikamaru, and Yamanaka Ino to join me in Training Area 6? Due to their shared experience as teammates, and being the leaders of their respective clans, Naruto was aware that his or her children would be placed in a single team. In the end, it was tradition. Rudy customs, Naruto sighed. If Naruto had to choose between Shikamaru or Choji, he would have been better off with only one player from his class. Which one is the better option, or both? At least he wouldn't be joining Ino's team now. He didn't dislike his blonde friend, but she was too inquisitive and meddlesome for her own benefit. Naruto's preference for privacy was so strong that he couldn't tolerate her. He opted not to reveal his secrets at this moment. Although he knew it would be impossible to keep the truth hidden from his classmates forever, if they treated him as an outcast and not some form of demon, they would at least treat him somewhat normal. Hinata-sama is still present, at least in this place. It's possible that I could end up on her team, which isn't a bad thing either. A woman of tall stature and dark hair entered the room shortly after Team 10 finished. Her red eyes were stunning, as if they had been observed through someone else's pupil. Her voice was gentle, but its message was challenging, both for Naruto and Hinata. Should Hyuga Hinata, Aburame Shino, and Inazuka Kiba follow me? The girl inquired, but was uneasy and followed her, finally focusing on the Uzumaki boy she had been hoping to be paired with. Naruto's wailing was evident when he contemplated who were left behind. He would be grouped with Sakura and Sasuke in a team. The two people who hate me the most are Sasuke's top 2 favorite girls and his fiery body of work. Naruto was left in a state of disbelief when Iruka apologized and suggested that their sensei might be delayed. Naruto expressed sarcastically that it was perfect. A team that dislikes me and a sensei who appears unconcerned about our well-being fail to arrive on schedule. It's a great time. Is this day destined for more harm than good? He asked, sighed, looked to the exterior, and began sleeping. The mental effort involved in learning things quickly was a drawback of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu method. Despite his hard work, Naruto appeared to have only slept for half of the day these days. Naruto is not likely to be referred to as lazy by those who have knowledge of Shikamaru. The king of idleness was Shikamaru. Iruka was forced to leave shortly after, and Sakura began talking to Sasuke. Although it was a one-way street, the latter seemed to be completely unaware of the traffic's direction. The team's performance left Sasuke feeling similarly dissatisfied. He didn't think he needed team members because of his talent, but if they encouraged some weaker players to join him, it would have provided them with more valuable talents. He looked out of the window and saw that Naruto had fallen asleep. Great, the bothersome fangirl and the indolent swine. After an hour had passed, a man entered the room and finally made his way inside. With his hair spiking up and down, it looked as though he had just gotten out of bed. His sole observable eye did not exhibit any signs of being interested in them. He managed to wake up Naruto by coughing hard, apparently irritated by the genin's lack of interest. 30 minutes of training, he said in a bored tone, before disappearing into thin air and departing. Sakura, what the hell am I going to ask? Sakura inquired. Naruto's expression was one of dismissal. The location is a little further north, near the river. I think he's interested in knowing how quickly we are progressing. Yeah, he could have at least gone to. Wait, where did Sasuke go? Sakura inquired after learning that Naruto had already left. Sakura realized that she had to move as Sasuke was not sitting in his chair. And swiftly. The Uchiha adolescent arrived first, just as he had foreseen. Kakashi had been told a little about him, and was aware that he was the best in his class. It was a reasonable decision to let the last Uchiha fall on me, Kakashi explained. I am the final person who can instruct him. His brother was not the only one present, of course. Itachi is not their intention to teach anything to this boy, heh. A surprise was the reason for the second arrival. The Haruno girl had not impressed Kakashi, but when he saw her briefly as they were waiting for him, she seemed more like a fangirl to him. The reports given by Hiruzen revealed that Kakashi had a high level of chakra control, although it was not the most effective form of kunoichi. While examining the papers, Kakashi discovered that her theoretical exam scores were significantly higher than Sasuke's. Regrettably, she was only mediocre when it came to employing those abilities. Nevertheless, she had the ability to challenge the Yamanaka descendant for the title of Kunoichi of the Year. The expectations of Kakashi for the current generation were not entirely positive due to this. As the game approached its 30-minute mark, Kakashi began to worry. The Uzumaki boy's story was somewhat erratic, but Kakashi realized after much reflection about it. His grades were generally average, but he occasionally excelled and received high ratings. The lack of success in ninjutsu resulted in the sudden disappearance of Kage Bunshin from the exams. The day after sacrificing one of his opponents to fight in single combat on taijutsu, Sasuke was defeated by someone as simple as not practicing kunais. It is evident that he has been keeping his true talent hidden. Hokage-sama cautioned me about his potential difficulties, but didn't offer much insight into his abilities or potential success. The Jinchuriki business only adds to the complexity. Although my Sharingan gives me an advantage if the boy loses his temper, it's still bothersome as long as I'm unaware of his strength. The boy's Jinchuriki status is the reason why nobody ever examined his true abilities thoroughly. Naruto arrived in time, but perhaps my expectations were inflated by the fact that Iruka had spoken positively about him. He casually strolled, with a box of takeaway food from Ichiraku's that had been left empty. Kakashi's brows raised slightly because he took the time to buy and consume food. The individual who was hiding in plain sight, or so he believed. He was unable to use Shunshin on the long haul, correct? The question remains unanswered. As usual, I'm going to start with the introductions. I'll start by introducing myself, and then you can share your name, aspirations, preferences, etc. As a Jonin, Kamikaze, I am Hatake Kakashi, but I don't want to disclose any personal details about me except for my likes and dislikes. Regarding my interests and aspirations, I'd like to share some common ground. The three genin looked at each other and shrugged off the nonsensical statement. Even though Naruto did not like to be seen in a certain way, he started off well. He simply wished to conclude the affair. I'm curious, who exactly is Uzumaki Naruto? He expressed his fondness for ramen and his disapproval of short-sighted and unintelligent individuals, while also resisting the temptation to point at other two geniuses. I suppose my ultimate goal is to become a Hokage, right? Naruto was displeased by the latter, which caused Sasuke to laugh with a cynical giggle. The blonde's reaction was delayed by Sakura, who had not initially been attentive to the Uzumaki. The individual in question is Haruno Sakura. My preference is, well, the person I am attracted to is not a good match for me. My dream is not a reality, but rather an ideal one. Oh, my God, she muttered. The fangirl was the only one who could see the sigh of their new sensei. The slightly embarrassed expression on Sasuke's face was deemed humorous by Naruto. The optimal restitution. The Uchiha's animosity towards fangirls of their own kind was something that Naruto knew very well. Perhaps more importantly, given that they were targeting Sasuke. Sasuke's expression was disconcerting as Naruto rolled his eyes and tried to hide his shame. He had witnessed a significant amount of such events in the past 3 years. Worse still, he had seen Sakura and Ino together before. Naruto's initial reaction was that Hinata never quite made it into the group of aspiring Kachichi, and it wasn't much surprising in hindsight. Hinata may be odd, but I would have preferred her as my teammate over any of the other girls. They can't seem to behave like Sasuke, and it seems like he never gave them any reason to hope. Sasuke spoke up after the girls' tirade, but he couldn't continue until it was too late. Uchiha Sasuke is the personification of my identity. There are many things I don't like and nothing in particular. What is my dream? It's possible to describe it as a dream, the return of my family and the demise of the person who brought them down. Naruto's initial experience of this kind of fury was felt by Sasuke, which was the first time he experienced it. He was almost anxious, wondering if Sasuke was in fact killing Kyuubi when the Uchiha massacre happened years later. While putting down his clock, Kakashi stated that they would now carry on with the introductions and perform a test. I have 2 bells for you to retrieve, and it'll be noon by noon when I start preparing them. What happens to Kakashi-sensei who doesn't have a bell at noon, and why does Sakura return to Earth? If you don't succeed, you can opt to return to the academy. If you want the bells, kill me with the intention of killing. In a deceptively innocent voice, Kakashi warned that he could attack someone if they saw him. He went missing again. Was Naruto's behavior a sign of indifference or did he simply lack interest in us? Oops, right. I had planned to keep it out for a while before the pervert showed up again. If it was for Konoha, I wasn't obliged to honor my commitment. Naruto expressed his skepticism by making a brief remark. Konoha is obligated to exhibit his silver-haired bastard, as evidenced by Hatake Kakashi who watched as Sasuke and Sakura quickly concealed themselves from the crowd. It was the most suitable selection, given their opponent's superior strength. Sasuke's failure to follow the kunoichi was slightly disappointing, but she still had a sense of cooperation and collaboration. Despite her actions of ignoring her fellow team member, Kakashi still wondered at the moment Naruto was seen sitting on the ground. With a serene demeanor, the boy laid out 4 paper sheets on the ground and displayed an empty scroll. What the? Can you provide an explanation for the presence of barrier seals in this guy's belt? Was there any instruction given to him on how to draw the Fuinjutsu? However, it is not a part of the academy curriculum. Kakashi contemplated the matter, stating that it was best to dismantle the barrier initially and then focus on investigating where he acquired it later. The boy threw some shuriken at the barrier to test his constructs. Nevertheless, he made sure to keep an eye out for the other 2 janitors. Despite its impracticality, Naruto could act as a distraction and allow the others to take notice. Curiously, the walls burst into flames when the shuriken collided with it. Despite being unharmed and jumping out of the smoke, Uzumaki's face showed signs of irritation. Kakashi fashioned a Kage Bunshin to cater to the boy's needs. Initially, Kakashi was taken aback by the boy's Fuinjutsu, but later found out that the barriers were too weak. The mere existence of such shameful barriers was a display of foolishness. Strangely enough, the boy's expression changed from irritation to amusement when Kakashi bared Bunshins appeared in front of him. A suspicious clone of Kakashi looked at the boy and said, "He's smiling." Naruto's tone was that of a nonchalant, "Thank you, sensei," as he expressed his gratitude. The intention is not to attack the Bunshin, but rather to challenge the authentic Kakashi. The location is not down there, but behind him. How can this be explained? How did you get to this location? Kakashi responded briefly, his initial reaction being completely surprised. He could still see Naruto in the clearing, and he was happy to wave at the confused Jonin. With a smile on his face, the boy said, "Kage Bunshin? I had to complete this task while you were still underestimating me, so I only used the barrier as a distraction." Naruto intentionally kept his abilities secret, even though I had made my own jutsu and a Kage Bunshin. The Bunshin soared out of the smoke created by my barriers, giving me the chance to locate you. Although it was a simple distraction, it probably worked because you didn't expect anything from me initially. How did you sneak up on me? Kakashi inquired. Although the diversion was clever, he was greatly perplexed by the part where the genuine Naruto had reached him. How did you find me? I didn't see anything. One of my familiar seals ensures that you can remain unnoticed unless you touch someone or speak. The boy admitted to scratching the back of his head, admitting that he found it difficult to accept the bell without touching him. I had the impression that your reflexes would have triggered them, but luckily it was effective. If you're wondering how I can find you, please let me know. Sensing you is not a big deal, but it's not difficult at all. You are a troubled person and you feel bad things about yourself all the time. The Jonin clearly understood that Naruto did not anticipate this to be an easy task. The number of people tested by Kakashi was so high that he couldn't remember, and none of them had ever taken the bell with him. Although some had come close, Kakashi was surprised by the boy's ability to perform. Moments later, Kakashi was calm enough to start worrying about the other two. According to Naruto, you wait by the logs. Keep an eye on the traps to avoid being set in motion. Hey, what a kid. He didn't even let me start reading my book. Honestly, I haven't felt this embarrassed since Itachi. I'm going to be the source of ridicule for Konoha when this becomes public. After a while, Kakashi returned to the three stubs at the center of the clearing when noon arrived. In general, Kakashi was somewhat impressed. It's evident that he wouldn't show it to them. He doesn't have to be complacent with his genin. Their failure to pass the actual test was a significant setback. The level of mastery displayed by Naruto and Sasuke made him more lenient than usual. His interest had reached its peak, even if it was only slightly. Sakura had just flinged Naruto, who was curled up against one of the logs and falling asleep rapidly. You're in hell. How did you manage to sleep during the test? Were you anxious about failing? She screamed. Despite Sasuke's frustrated expression, Naruto displayed emotion during one of his first appearances. He was enraged. Sakura, if you can get away with it, go ahead and kick someone else. She murmured. He sneered, here I am, and didn't pay much attention to the wincing girl. It's clear that you're not capable of catching one person due to your behavior. You can now see what it looks like. How did you go about your personal experience? Sasuke-kun is not the only one. Naruto-kun was the only one who rang the bell, right? Kakashi sighed, acknowledging the need to return to the academy. Nevertheless, it's inconsequential. It's time for all three of you to stop pretending to be shinobi. The three individuals were undoubtedly interested in that. Naruto was the initial person to make a comeback. That's a falsehood that cannot be accepted. We had to catch a bell to pass it, and you mentioned that I did, he said, his eyes narrowing. You must be aware of the reason why I think all three of you should quit if you're thinking like that. What is the reason that I don't think any of you are deserving of being shinobi? Naruto, your performance was unquestionably the best. Sasuke's scowl was met with approval from the Jonin, who replied with, yes, Sashalb. According to Naruto, you never paid attention to your team members. Moreover, you concealed your talents from them, impeding any collaboration. Naruto remarked that it was not like they had any intention of working with him. The Jonin ignored the Uzumaki and said, Sasuke. You hurriedly left without assistance. Like Naruto, you never thought about your teammates from the start. Can you share your thoughts on the effectiveness of working together? You were almost on the cusp of winning the last bell, and I'm proud of you for it. Sakura, your performance was the most disappointing of all. It's a breeze. You shouldn't have fallen for genjutsu in that manner, Kakashi stated with a disapproving tone. Instead of the others, you reflected on someone other than yourself, but your thoughts were limited to Sasuke. You were within my reach when Naruto unexpectedly surprised me. If you had taken a step back and watched what he was doing, you would have been just as likely to get slapped on the wrist. It's not to suggest that your love is insignificant, but at least try to manage your emotions a bit. If you are too consumed by love to care about Sasuke, it is better to stop at nothing. Simply work in a hospital or similar establishment. If you persist as a kunoichi with that perspective, you would only be viewed as an impediment in the field. A burden to your team. Sasuke seemed irate and Sakura looked embarrassed, but couldn't resisting Kakashi's words. Naruto was simply bewildered. What is the reason behind this Jonin's expectation for people to work with him, given his deep-seated nature? The sole outcome of contemplating yourself will be not only your own demise, but also that of your colleagues. Kakashi briefly paused to consider the potential negative impact on the village that could result from failing a mission. Although you managed to catch one bell, I think it would be a good idea for us to give you another chance. Don't underestimate the strength of Shinobi, as even the most basic genin can work together effectively. In 15 minutes, Kakashi took Naruto's bell and disappeared into the night of smoke. It's possible that I should have intentionally failed, just for the sake of happiness. Naruto briefly considered the possibility of not being part of this shady team, but ultimately dismissed it. This is the most favorable reason to return to the academy. While both missions would be tedious, they could still be enjoyable. It would be a positive change to leave the village. Sakura asked in a confused tone, why should we collaborate when one of us doesn't succeed? With a hint of fury, Sasuke replied that the test was not about bells. How did you come across that bell? He asked, referencing Naruto, who was somewhat displeased by the Uchiha's impolite conduct. He would be, if he wasn't used to it already. You've completely ignored me? Fools, Naruto sighed. Okay, I'm not thrilled with this team, but I don't want to suffer any losses because of something like this. It's possible that I can catch him again. However, it appears improbable that the same approach will function again. He's too good to be true about it. The seal I used to sneak up to Kakashi only pertains to me. Other than myself and my Bunshin area, I haven't learned how to do it on anything. In addition, the chakra cost is a source of bother. It's unlikely that you could handle it either way. However, I have other choices to consider. I simply need to know his whereabouts and find someone to hold him back for a few minutes. That's the place where we are necessary, Sasuke declared with a sense of relief. Despite the humiliating pain of working with the blonde, he knew there was no other option available to him. If this test was not passed, it would have been even more detrimental. To succeed, it was necessary to work together as a team. Alright, you're correct, we have no choice but to go with it. Is not discriminating against someone like Kakashi? Sakura inquired, taken aback by Sasuke's unexpected turn of events. What are you planning to do with us? The addition of enough chakra to my Inryoku no Fuin, gravitation seal, could result in him being unable to move for someone else to catch the bells. I am uncertain about the duration of time that a real Jonin would be held back. The drawback of that seal is that it applies to everything within its range when I release it. Moving is also something I won't be able to do. The person who manages to lure Kakashi-sensei will also be apprehended. Sakura was gazed at by Naruto, who made a grimace and stare. You'll need to use Kakashi-sensei as a distraction for the rest of your day. With the seal only requiring a short distance to complete, Sasuke would be the only one with time to spare and grab the bells. Is there no other choice? It's a gamble, Sasuke quipped. Naruto's response was uncharacteristic, saying, "It depends on Sakura or you having some hidden power." It's a good thing they wouldn't grasp the irony of what he just said. In addition, he was aware that Sakura would never conceal anything that could make Sasuke proud, and even then, his only hope would be to use it as a chance to demonstrate his superiority. As I slept, I observed the sensei's movements. Evidently, his velocity is significantly greater than mine. His taijutsu is probably the best I've ever seen, except for the like of Hayashi-sama and Hizashi Shima. I've never witnessed him use his skills to hide and escape before. The speed at which he executes his hand seals is not taken into consideration. There's no possibility of us rushing towards him, even if we don't feel threatened. Even with the entire class present, we would still be defeated by this individual. Especially now that he is no longer underestimated of us. The words, "but, sensei is so much better, how do you feel," resonated with Sakura. The task is designed to make it impossible for any individual genitals to get near those bellies. You didn't let it go, either. Before he nodded, Sasuke grimaced. It's only when we work together as a team that things can be done. Sakura was unable to keep up with all the new information. The outcast character Naruto had a remarkable talent that was so impressive that even Sasuke-kun could comprehend it, but only 2 bells were mentioned. The purpose of this is to assess our teamwork, and it's just a test. As we are working together for the first time, it's probable that our efforts are focused on maximizing our abilities rather than prioritizing our own performance. A team is always made up of 3 genin and a jonin sensei. He frowned and concluded that we had been duped. Ah, that's the truth. As Kakashi looked down at the genin. From the side, he said, "This sounds a lot better." His presence was not noticed by anyone, indicating his skill. Naruto pondered how the jonin had prevented him from doing so in such a way. He was conscious of his focus on planning, not on his sense. Under his mask, Kakashi smiled without hesitation. "If you persist in doing this, your genitals may rise significantly. Let me know if you're still in the loop. I'm interested in learning more about your Fuinjutsu, Naruto." That was partially accurate. Another reason was that Kakashi did not want to be chased for another few hours. According to Naruto's voice, the Fuinjutsu makes a dangerous sound. What else was concealed by him? It appears to be Jiraiya-sama's meddling. It would be reasonable to assume that he was responsible for safeguarding the library from Minato-sensei and Kushinasuma. It would be reasonable for Naruto to eventually acquire them. I'm curious as to why Hokage-sama didn't speak a word about it. It's possible that I should have read those files more thoroughly. You guys were the first to acknowledge that they didn't start a fight with each other after I scolded you, Kakashi continued. The majority of them were unintelligent individuals who solely viewed themselves as second-rate, blamed others for their actions, and were unwilling to accept the possibility of being ignored. Despite the existence of numerous codes and rules, few individuals comprehend that they must put their lives on the line or choose not to. Only trash abandons others for a pointless mission. The stone monument at the entrance of the village of Konoha serves as a tribute to the authentic heroes. The ones who made the ultimate sacrifice for their teammates, family, and community. It's a good time to meet up again at this training center tomorrow, right? Naruto expressed his suspicion that Kakashi-sensei, despite being one of the few jonin mentioned earlier, has an understanding. As he entered the estate, Hinata looked at her and then frowned. The people he communicated with were insignificant. Surprisingly, she chose to get closer. You could have argued that he had the option to select another pair of genitalia if securing my team's formation was on his side. Allocating me to a team with those 2 idiots. Naruto expressed sorrowfully, stating that Sakura's absence would have made his life less challenging. I would have preferred having Choji or Shikamaru around, or Hideous, but I don't. Hinata made an effort to speak up, but they were both interrupted by someone else's unintelligible voice. Why didn't you call a messenger, followed by an odd voice. You've informed me that I hadn't summoned you enough, Kichi, Naruto quipped with a light-hearted tone. This is not a sport or an activity that can be enjoyed. Kichi, the baby, declared that he should depart before the chick see him and then vanished into a thin smoke cloud. Naruto was observed by Hinata staring at her, and she was unpleasantly surprised to see that her jaw had sunk. What's the name of this frog? She asked. Hinata was taken aback by Naruto's laughter during his performance. Naruto's laughter was not very frequent. At least it's not true laughter. Frogs are disliked by most people, so it's best to keep this information to themselves. It's not your responsibility to ask me why. Naruto chuckled, clarifying that Gamakichi was not a toad. Upon seeing her confusion, he explained, "It's been years since I signed the toad summoning contract earlier. I was compelled by Jiraiya to summon them, and she taught me how to do it. The only two of us with a contract to communicate is how we can best exchange messages," he said. He made me promise not to reveal it either. Please refrain from disclosing any information to anyone, especially Hayashi-sama. I was told that he had met Gamabunta, the father of Gamakichi, many years ago. It appeared to me that they were not very hospitable. Toads don't possess good manners, he stated with a smile. Your family is not well versed in etiquette and may be reluctant to participate in Gamabunta. Hinata shook her head in shock when she saw I, and proceeded to say something. How was your experience meeting with Wire Jonin-sensei? Hinata recollected her uncle's recent rant about the less timely Jonin brothers, and she smiled faintly as she remembered the boy who always seems to be running behind Hisashi-sama. Ajisen stated that Kakashi-san was a highly skilled individual. Naruto acknowledged that during the test he presented to us, I saw that. Hinata inquired about the validity of a test. We were not given a test by Kurenai-sensei. Despite her pleasant demeanor, she did criticize Kiba-san on several occasions. Naruto's expression was grim. I know that Kiba wasn't doing it without cause, and he smiled. As for our team, Kakashi-sensei put us to the test and affirmed that we were working together as a unit. It's improbable, in hindsight, if you have some knowledge of my team, he joked. One team featuring Sakura and Sasuke may not be entirely satisfactory. Hinata imitated one of her fellow classmates as being troubling. Naruto admitted, in a dark tone, that that's an understatement. Sasuke's annoyance towards her behavior is evidently on equal footing. It's my belief that everything bothers him. After a brief moment, Naruto glanced at his watch and expressed regret to the woman. I'm sorry, Hinata-sama. I have to run errands for Haruki-san, and Ako-san. I requested you to stop with Sama, Hinata whispered, but the boy was unaware of his request as he had already fled. She believed that conversing with him for this long was a sign of progress. Typically, it was either she got upset or he left with a polite explanation. Whenever someone was talking to him, she always felt like she needed to run away. As she turned and approached the main building on the compound, Ako appeared. Following a severe seizure that caused Naruto to have trouble and Haruki to lose his footing, Ko, the younger sister of Hinata's personal guard, was given the responsibility of taking care of them. Hinata-sama nodded and the young woman, with brown hair, proceeded to head towards the man's cottage after Haruki-san asked if she wanted to speak to him. Ako was a somewhat unusual branch Hyuga. Despite her kindness and responsibility, Ako had a temperamental quality that could be easily confused with cold weather. She had become entangled in a chain of events that led her to serve Naruto. With his newfound confidence, Ako was seen as the embodiment of seriousness, donning the customary full-length kimono and white apron. Although Hinata was unable to explain the reason, it appeared that the young woman had some confusion about something. The young servant's inquisitive gaze made Hinata shudder with curiosity as the door was held open for her, leaving her to worry. Hinata-sama, welcome, Haruki said to the girl from his chair. Don't be anxious, please. Is my appearance not that bad? I hope you don't feel offended when I stand up, he said with a smile, then nodded back at Ako, who exited the room and closed the door. Despite its relative inadequacy, it remained somewhat of a challenge. It would be polite of Haruki to discuss the welfare of Naruto-kun, but he was cautious. I am not willing to disclose any information, but I think this is important. It's important to note that Naruto-kun has some responsibilities to manage. That's one of the reasons why he is disliked by many, and it adds to his burden. Hinata appeared unhappy. I'm curious, Haruki-san. What is the reason behind people's intense hatred towards Naruto? Although Otosama has refused to answer, Kasa has suggested that I should seek advice from either O-Tournament or Naruman-kun. Tears streamed down her pale eyes. Naruto-kun has never been punished, but he is always left behind by no one. It's completely unjust. I understand that he doesn't mind, but he uses his chance to hide his emotions and avoid being around others, Haruki stated in her closing statement on her case. I am sorry for any inconvenience, but I cannot disclose more specifics of this matter. My request is for you to lend a hand to him. There is no one of Naruto-kun's age to share his burdens with, and he lacks the luxury of having friends. Hinata's shock made Haruki laugh. I'm sorry, I can say this with a very casual tone, but I understand that you feel uneasy around Naruto. In contrast, you are among the few people with whom Naruto converses and who he truly cares for. It is my belief that Naruto keeps people at a distance to protect himself, but he considers you as the one who saved him from the orphanages. It is my belief that Hinata-sama can be of assistance to him, provided that you are prepared to do it. Hinata's expression was characterized by blushing and confusion, hinting at mistiness. Despite this, Naruto-kun rescued me. On 2 occasions, I was saved. What reasons could there be for him to feel remorseful about his actions, as Naruto-kun would likely attribute it to the fact that the Hyuga clan had done something special for himself, which was not possible with him. He had only been raised in orphanages, and individuals viewed him as another burden, at best. Haruki stated that the Hyuga clan had taken him in, educated and trained him. In my opinion, Naruto has come to realize his responsibility to the welfare of others. I am aware of the fact that I was oblivious to his feeling like that. Whenever I am talking to him, I tend to forget what I said. She believes that Hinata-sama has a lot more power than she realizes, but it is clear that she doesn't have the nerve to try. Embrace that too. Although our clan has high expectations, there are many different forms of strength that we can rely on. I'm not weak on your kindness, Haruki expressed, looking at her shocked face. Naruto's life could be saved by your good deeds. If Naruto-kun were to lose faith in humanity, what are the potential consequences? Kami is aware that the actions taken were well received, as Haruki sighed. Hinata's confidence was evident as she nodded and appeared more resolute than when she entered the room. Despite not being part of Naruto's team, she could still communicate with him during his visit to the Hyuga compound. She was let out by Ako, who was a few years older than her and looked at her with sympathy. Hinata-sama, if you ever need any help, please let me know. I am committed to doing my utmost for Naruto-kun. Hokage-sama, Kakashi bowed. Hiruzen said, Good morning, Kakashi. What was your team's outcome during the test? Not a particularly team-oriented statement. Although they were both impressive on their own, I'm still confused about why you chose to have Sasuke and Naruto as one team. The most unfaithful pair of sex I've encountered is this one. Put them together and it will be more trouble than good, if that makes any sense, or so it seems. The Hokage sighed and suggested Kakashi to take the seat in front of him. It's clear that both boys have significant responsibilities. Nevertheless, I desire that the burdens of it may help them reconcile with each other. Hiruzen made a brief interlude. In addition, they both require your cooperation. Sasuke will need someone to assist him in awakening, and Naruto's Sharingan could be the most effective solution if he falls into this trap. The part of Kakashi's face that could be seen was pale. I say, you mean you really expect me to do it? How much strength does the seal possess, given that it has been in use for so long? The Kyubi no Kitsune is a complex entity. Despite the presence of a seal like Minato's, it remains unstoppable. The effect of this on Naruto could be very potent, and I'm anxious. You are one of the few who could potentially stand a chance when the monster takes control, and Sasuke may be able to assist you if he awakens his Sharingan. Knowing what he would have to do, Kakashi nodded and proceeded with his task. The task was more hazardous than anticipated, almost causing him to long for his previous position with the Umbu. I have some doubts about Naruto's current proficiency, Hokage-sama. Haruki's disconcerting white eyes widened in amazement. Hitomi-sama. Could you shed some light on why you chose to take this action? You must be aware that there have been a few attempts at her death, as the majority of people believe she is not qualified to be the biological father. Why did you put more pressure on her weak shoulders than before? Haruki was aware of the anger in her mind and made the decision to disclose everything to her. As much as possible, without compromising the trust Naruto placed in him. I acknowledge her burden, cousin, and I am fully cognizant of it. Nevertheless, I also perceive the burden of Naruto. I genuinely believe that they can assist one another. Despite the fact that most of the clan would not be in favor of her evident love for him, I doubt they would care either. Naruto is unaware of this fact, although Hinata is not difficult to comprehend in terms of its significance. Haruki gave a profound sigh of relief. Naruto's ultimate aim is to become a Hokage, but it falls short in terms of his actual ambition. He perceives being Hokage as a means of becoming accepted and changing the world that befell him. His life has been a struggle since he was born. I cherish him with the same fervor as I feel my own offspring. My long-standing desire for Minako and I had a child, but unfortunately, she passed away before we could legally marry us. As things stand, I am certain that I will soon be joining her. I am not remorseful about it, you are equally as aware of this. The hatred towards our village or the Kyubi cannot be ignored when abandoning Naruto. It's important for you to recognize that he is losing the battle. He displays varying body language, has irregular chakra movements, and coloration patterns. Hayashi is a concern that I am aware of. Pushing it on my daughter is unacceptable. I acknowledge that I am aware of this. She is the only one who can provide assistance. They have a mutual respect for each other, in some way. Cousin, you come across as more complicated than you imagine. The only person who can break free from the downward spiral is your daughter. He is the ideal partner to assist her in resolving her issues, while at the same time. What are the outcomes of observing them? Knowing that his cousin was the master of ready body language, Haruki carefully wrote down everything. According to my understanding, Naruto would not tolerate harming Hinata. His statement left Hitomi with a lack of emotion. Although Hayashi had his doubts about the boy's real lineage, she never objected to them getting closer together, knowing that it would not be a problem. Hinata's emotions made it more significant, according to her. Her self-esteem would increase if she were accepted by the person she loved, which would have a major impact on her ability to fight back. This could potentially alter the way the clan perceived her. Nonetheless, the hazards were not amusing. She could see that her cousin was hiding something, but she didn't. Who was involved in Hinata's failed attempt to kill her, namely him or Naruto? With a sigh of relief and rubbing his forehead, Hitomi smiled. Very well, I won't menacingly interfere. At least not yet. It's important to note that she is not currently cognizant of his burden. When she realizes it, her reaction can be quite a troublesome thing, especially if you are correct in your opinion on how much he misses her. It is important to teach him about love and relationships for a brief period. Although she admits to being unable to understand him, it is evident that he has no idea about it. Teaching him proper manners would seem like a fruitless endeavor. He lifted his eyebrows knowing it would be a difficult task, and then left. I will, Hitomi-sama. She departed from him, wondering how she could have brought this to Hayashi. In a delicate manner. He may not believe that his daughter would make a good father, but it did not seem favorable for her to be involved with sex. This was especially unappealing since the boy involved in Konoha's Jinchuriki was also from there. It's possible that she should just stay quiet. She was the first to acknowledge that Hayashi was just as ignorant as Naruto in his previous years. With a smile on her face, she remembered how long it had been before he came to know she loved him. She continued to teach him to read body language, even after he had already learned it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and subscribe for more content. Support the original author by clicking their profile link in the pinned comment of the first video of this series. They deserve the love. Want early access and exclusive content? Join my Patreon community, link below. Your support fuels these videos. Drop a comment with your thoughts, and I'll catch you in the next video. Stay entertained, stay safe.